making gravy all week.
Our event is starting.
Oh, it's good.
So you're playing the game? How?
I'm gonna play the game. It's not a
Yeah,
game.
that's a little bit.
You're gonna play your experience?
It's an experience. Yeah,
I mean,
it is true. It's not really.
We're
officially live?
Hey.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the August edition of Dinner with the Devs. Dwayne here, and with the marketing team here at Schell Games. We got an exciting stream for you today. As always, if you're in the chat, if you're watching, please let us know that our audio is good, that you guys can hear us well. And yeah, we're super excited to be here. So this event is the Jam Week edition with our lovely devs here. And who would like to explain what our Jam Week is? Who'd like to take? Go ahead,
I
Ryan.
can do that. So Jam Week is a time that we do once a year here at Schell Games where project work and other obligations slow or stop if possible, and we all work on other stuff, cool stuff, like different ideas. Basically, if there's something that you've always wanted to do, this is your chance to do it here at work. If you have a game idea that you can build in a week, like go for it, grab a team, find people of similar interests, and you get to use all the cool tech, all the awesome facilities, and all the amazing minds here at Schell to help build your stuff.
Very cool. And so why, I'll get this out to everybody. So why do you guys like to do, Jam Week personally?
I get
Good.
to learn new stuff
Mhm.
and do things that are typically outside of what I do on a daily basis. So it's like learn some new skill or brushing up on a different skill, but it's not about like what my job title is at Schell Games. It's about fitting in on a team and doing a role that needs filled and having fun doing it.
Good deal.
Yeah,
Good deal.
it's nice to not be afraid to just make something awful. You just do whatever you want, and if it sucks, like that's good. Like it's fine.
Spoiler.
Yeah, we're gonna play a bunch of bad games today, guys. Yeah. So
It's also a great way, because sometimes you might know someone at work, but you're never on another project with them.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, we should work together on this. And this is an opportunity to like, hey, Charles, I've never worked with you before. Why don't we do something together this week? So, as an example. I've never worked with Charles.
Maybe next year.
Yeah.
As a counter to that, yeah, I mean, we do a ton of team-based projects all the time, year-round. If you're looking to just kind of silo yourself for a week and work on something individually, it's also a great time for that, too, to just kind of like have a week with no meetings is sometimes a nice gift.
Yeah, I think it's also a good opportunity to try out different skills. Like, for example, we had like an artist on our team. He was doing more like producer / designing, and like I was doing some programming even though I'm an artist, so it was nice to try things out.
good deal. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to get a chance to, well, we're not going to be jamming today, but we're going to show, spoiler alert, we're going to showcase several of the games that these guys have made. So what we're going to do, we'll start with Charles and we'll go around. They'll introduce themselves, say the title of their experience, and then a brief description of what it's going to be, and then we'll get started showing the games, and hopefully we'll get a chance to answer your questions about them and what the studio's working on.
Cool. I'm Charles. I'm a designer here at Schell Games, and I made Gunsmiths of Saturn with Carl here in the studio as well. It's a competitive 1v1 gun duel in VR where you can change and customize your gun with a crafting system in between quick rounds.
Cool. I'm Doyle, UX and UI design, and I worked on Caster Curse with Ziad, and it's VR magic casting in, magic casting in VR. And so it was more about just making that fun, ergonomic, and enjoyable and easy to do. So not so much a game, just more of an experience.
Yeah, and I'm Chris Hatch. I kind of did a solo thing. I made a game called Castle Siege VR. Basically, it's an RTS with tabletops. So you place the pieces, and when you put them on the table in VR, they place themselves in the real world. And then my real first goal was to just make a destructible castle. And that kind of evolved into like, well, that's not really fun. Nobody's going to want to check out just like things went boom. So it evolved into that RTS Castle VR thing, which you'll see in a bit.
My name is Ryan Hall. I'm a designer at Schell. I don't know if I'm going to be showing it tonight, but I did work on during Jam Week on a board game, which is cool to do something non-virtual sometimes. It's based around, it's a worker placement game based around bodybuilding and getting totally shredded at the gym. Yeah, came out pretty good.
Hey, I'm Michael Lee. I'm an engineer here at Schell, and I worked on Pop-Up Puzzler along with Dan Lin over here. Camera's over there.
You can wave at me though, that's fine.
That's and we also, that was a larger project, so we had Zach, John, Joy, Laura, and Evan for a few days on that
Yeah, I
project
guess
also.
Chad, but-
And also Chad, but Chad was actually out that week, so he was not, he did not participate in this year's Jam Week. And it's a pop-up, it's a puzzle game based around the theme of a pop-up book that you explore. And a little unusual than other people's Jam Weeks is that this is actually the second Jam Week that it's been worked on. So it was made last year, that was the initial prototype, and this year we were working on refining it and testing out new concepts.
Oh my god, it's been a year. Oh, that just hit me. That feels like last week that I saw the initial prototype.
Well,
It was November,
that's a little
so it
less
was a
than a
little
year.
bit.
It was
Yeah.
less than a year.
Okay.
Yeah, that's true, it was
But
not.
almost a year.
Not a week though.
Sure.
I'm Mike. I'm an engineer here at Schell Games, and I worked with Dave Bennett, Josh Lippert, and Josh Brennan on a game called Orion Traders. And it basically takes the Orion Trail universe and gives that game like a more mechanical outer loop. So you have like ships in space, and you trade with other planets, and you engage in funny dialogue with those planets. The kind of conversations you would expect from Orion Trail. And then there's also like there's also like this like star-based thing, and you can like trick it out and build new rooms and kind of like give your starbase like a living economy and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a space trading simulation game.
Yeah, so I'm Dan Lin. I'm a game artist at Schell Games. Yeah, and we're also working on Pop-Up Puzzler, so.
Yeah. Hey everybody, I'm Tyler. I'm an artist here. I worked on Myrmidon. It's an ant game. Yeah, you'll see it.
It's a simulation game.
It's
An
ant
ant.
simulation.
What about Uncles?
Not, I hate the avoidance of ant.
It's really funny.
That's
We have to stop
Oh,
the
if
stream.
anyone makes a you've got bugs, bug fixing joke, it's been heard 1,000
Oh,
times.
okay.
Drop them all around.
I did find bugs though.
Yeah, yep. They're not even true bugs.
Cool. So, as you can hear, like in just this room alone, there's a lot of diverse experiences whenever you get the whole studio, and you know, you saw the list of the games and experiences. They're all types. So you just get a chance to see just a sliver of what the studio worked on. We're super excited about it. So the first one we're actually going to do live, right? Yeah. So it's Doyle's game, Caster Curse, and as we get that set up, if you want to just say a little bit more about it, as you know, you can get over there, get set up.
Yeah. So this was Ziad's idea. He was an intern. He actually just went back to school. But yeah, it was just purely about getting magic casting to feel good in VR, and so that was our goal. Should I just go over and start throwing the headset on?
Yep.
I'll talk through it while I'm showing it off.
There's a Charles. They're saying it's kind of hard to see you, so just if
Yeah.
you're going to just move a little bit further down.
Is this, people can see this? And can they see me?
Oh yeah, that's true.
Danny's over your head, so I'll move it, but you can stand it.
Alright. Yeah, that's weird. Alright.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so as you can see, we got a dummy up here. Used for shooting spells.
Hey, don't talk to Mike like that.
And part of the demo was there's going to be a magic book, which I'm holding, got a wand, and we wanted you to do spells with your hand and then launch the spells from the wand. So in addition, I was like, well, it'd be great if we could get some kind of tutorial, and so we have a little mini tutorial here. When I do demos, I like it to be self-contained, and so the idea was to have this be self-contained. So I'm going to draw this first spell, and I'm going to kind of follow these instructions. Boom. Cool, I got something going on. So complete the spell and release the red trigger. So I'm gonna shoot this fireball, and this is my first time doing physics. I suck at it real bad. So I did all the collision stuff, and me and Ziad worked together on the spell casting, and that worked pretty sweet. So I'll walk through some of these. We got fireball, which I showed you. There's lightning.
How'd you turn the page?
With the stick.
Oh.
And the lighting's kind of, we found like all these effects like on the asset store for free.
Cool.
And that floor texture and that model. So like, but I did model the book, so that was cool. And did the art in here. So
You don't have to get the physics right if it's magic, you know. You
yeah,
just,
it's magic.
just explain it.
So actually, I can show you one thing we were proud of was being able to do this from any direction and start anywhere. It checks and validates it, and it doesn't suck too bad. So we also have defensive spells. So we have shield, and this one just you have this like whirlwind around you, which is kind of cool. That could block attacks or something. And then there's this hex wall. So it's like a shoot a wall out in front of you and I guess repel attacks. So we changed the sphere patterns for the different like defensive and attack. I don't know if that's something we'd want to do in the future. Probably wants to be consistent. Like things we heard is people want to just build like, oh, I memorized this spell and then like I can just do it. So I don't have to like necessarily look, but I can kind of do the pattern. So probably want to change that in the future, but overall, like, considering we started with nothing, we have like a book with page flipping and spell casting and symbols and some bad aiming and all this stuff. It works pretty good.
There we go.
So yeah, pretty happy. Like 1 week, 2 guys, all the time.
And then, did I miss it? What was the, how'd you come up with this concept?
So this was Ziad's idea.
Okay.
I was like, and he was looking for like UX, and I thought, oh, this will be interesting, like kind of challenge, like making this feel good and easy. And so I want to work on some programming, but I was hoping we would have had a coder, but we didn't. So he kind of knew some programming, I know some programming. Together we coded it all, and then I helped with art, and he hooked in all the spells, came with the patterns, and so it was a cool team.
Very cool. Very cool.
All right.
No,
that's good. How do you handle like if they cast the wrong spell, like if they hit random buttons? Is it like they?
We logged like we had numbers on each of the points. So we numbered the points and we checked through an array of all those. And it doesn't really matter the order as long as we're checking through and they match.
Okay.
If they match, it launches. If it doesn't work.
So do you have some freedom, like if you have to just do a triangle, can I do a triangle on like a little elbow?
No, because we do specifically say it's like this top point, so
Okay.
it is specific points.
Gotcha.
So that's how we validate it. And you're supposed to be like drawing this symbol, so the spheres are making it easier to do that symbol.
Yeah.
It's more, but when you're done, you want to see like the perfect symbol, like oh that feels cool, I did that. You didn't draw that, but good enough. So you want to feel good in the end, but also feel good doing it. So that was
And it'd be
kinda
easy to add like different spell patterns, I guess.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, like we had 4 just for now, but you can do as many as you want. And we have 6 spheres for the defense. I think if we had 6 for everything, then it just opens up tons of possibilities.
That's cool. So would that be the next like iteration? You have more time to work on it, or what would you?
Yeah, I
guys
think
do
so.
next?
And thinking about the gameplay too. Right?
Mhm.
So like right now, it's like it feels good to do spells, but it is like maybe you're battling somebody, or it's like, can I do these spells quickly? Like, it depends what the gameplay scenario is, right? And like how this fits into the gameplay. So maybe you want to be able to like quickly do them, so maybe they want to be tighter. So you can just do like little spells and like it's about doing fast things and launching them, or maybe you cast them, they auto go off. Like right now we have the aiming, but that might want to just be like auto targeting. That's something people have mentioned like when playing it. So it kind of just, I think it depends like what kind of game it would fit into, and then you would need to adjust it accordingly.
Okay. Ziggy said that the game looked fun.
Cool.
So that's cool.
It's funner than we thought. We weren't planning to have a dummy or anything. Like that was like all stretch goal stuff. So the fact that we got that and like he reacted and everything was like really nice. Helps a lot to sell like what you did, like make it feel good.
Right.
Yeah. Well, it's like what Tyler said earlier too. Like you can dive into Jam Week without like a lot of weight on your shoulders, right? Like let's just try some stuff out, explore, skill build. Like you end up learning something even if you don't make something awesome, or you make something awesome.
It's always like an amazing surprise. You're like, oh my god, we got stretch goals in.
Oh, totally.
You
Yeah,
never
yeah.
expect it, right?
Yeah, the page turning and stuff was like, like the last day I got the page flip in, it was like, yeah, exactly. Well, we've done this before in Lego, so it's like I'd seen this and had an idea to tackle it, so.
Wait, so you actually were able to do stuff on Friday?
Yeah.
Every single jam
Impressive.
year, Jam Week, like Friday has always been like, you come in the morning and like suddenly nothing works.
Your desk
You're
is
like,
on fire.
What happened? Like on Thursday?
That kind of
I
did happen
swear."
like 30 minutes before because we added the physics and the guy reacting and something broke and it was all dead. So it was like 30 minutes of hell, but it worked. We
Hey,
got
do you have the
it.
one spell, the crash the desktop spell?
Annihilation.
So Noah says that it'd be interesting. He thinks it looks cool too, and he wondered how it would change if you added multiplayer battles.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing that was sort of in the back of our mind. So, like I said, it depends on how this game would work, but it is all skill based, right? So it's
Mhm.
like, if I'm better at casting these spells quickly, then I would be able to damage you more, maybe get off defensive spells in between your attacks. So
Mhm.
I think that could work in a multiplayer situation, right? Like if it's pure skill based, then it's like a shooter at that point.
Yeah.
So maybe it could be a thing. There is already a magic casting game in VR, but I know Ziad's goal was to like make this feel better and improve upon what they have. I still haven't played that game, so I should check it out. But a lot of people who had played that mentioned that this felt better than that. So
Oh, cool.
It was like an Oculus Studios game.
yeah, it's Insomniac I think made it.
Unspoken.
Unspoken, yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay. Unspoken.
It's a tough to remember name.
Yeah.
You're also just multiplayer and attack each other's castles, right? Like the
It
other
could
wizard
be
doesn't have to
many
be.
different
be
things.
defense, yeah.
yeah. And we were thinking a little bit about like other stuff going on in the studio, like maybe this could fit into that too. Like I don't know. There's,
Mhm.
And looking at this, it makes me want the spells to be long, like really long. So like Wind Waker songs.
yes.
So you're like doing a thing and then you finish it, and it's yeah.
Yeah, one of the things was that the spells should be like their own little mini game, right? So like the
Mhm.
pattern, like the lightning one was like this kind of like time symbol kind of thing, like infinity symbol. And it's like, yeah, the idea is if you were battling people in multiplayer and you need to be fast, it's like getting that spell just right. Like, and maybe they get more complicated as you go. Like that can add some more challenge to it. But it was really just a loose idea of magic casting, doing these symbols. What it was used for, who knows? But
Yeah, it'd be kind
It
of cool
did
if
feel
you,
good.
you kind of like combine it with some kind of like Magicka thing, where like
Mhm.
you do like a sequence of spells and then like Magicka like changes them, combines them, the elements and stuff like
yeah,
that.
that could be cool too.
Yeah, Noah also said that it kind of reminds him of Full Metal Alchemist in a way.
Oh, okay. I've seen a little bit of that. I haven't watched too much, but
Yeah.
it's pretty cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
The on-screen thumbs.
Well, cool. Any other questions for Doyle, Cast or Curse?
And Ziad, remember, this is his idea, really. The kid's in college right now. He came here for an internship, and it's like he was rocking it. So
Yeah. And Ziad. So Ziad, if you're watching, great job, man.
Yeah, it's super impressive for
Yeah.
a week.
Yeah, seriously. Well, cool. Next one up is Pop-Up Puzzler.
All right.
I guess I'll steal
You
your
got
chair.
the-
It's gonna be like that.
Musical chairs.
I'm good now.
Oh, actually.
Well, I mean, we just have a video, right?
Yeah, it's just a video, so.
Oh, you lost your chair for nothing, huh?
I mean,
So yeah, so if you guys want to explain what's going on in the video?
Yeah, so we jumped right in. So basically, with Pop-Up Puzzler, the idea here, and again, this was a continuation from last year, is you control a pop-up book. And what you can't see is basically the little girl character. You control using your left analog stick. And you walk around, and what you want to do is you have to. There's little tokens you can collect. But also, the level changes because it's a pop-up book. So you turn the pages, and things will pop up, things will disappear, and so the goal of each level is just to get to the little portal, the end goal portal, I guess we called it.
Yeah.
But, so the first couple levels are just teaching you how to move around, but what we have is like these little interactable tabs. And the idea is you can go on them, and they're like tabs in a pop-up book. You pull them in and out, and they move the blocks on the page. So that's where a little of the puzzle element comes in. And basically, So you can see here we're doing a little more tutorialization. And so it's like a little pop-up book. It's on a stand. You can rotate around. Everything sort of, I guess, stands like a 2D, 3D sort of
Yeah,
thing.
everything's like made out of paper or somewhat like paper.
Mhm. So here we aligned all the tabs so that you can go through and get to the end goal. And it's a little inspired by things like Captain Toad. So there's like these 3 little inkwells that you can collect, a lot like the diamonds in Captain Toad. So the interesting thing here is, okay, so on this level, okay, you get through, but you can't go to the goal because it's elevated. But what you can do is if you move the tab over and you walk, there's holes in the book. So when you turn the page, you can actually, some elements or your character can like peek through different pages. And that's like the next level of puzzle solving.
Yeah, the holes make everything a lot more complex because then each page is a different layer you can navigate.
Yeah, so you can have multiple pages stacked on top of each other, and they can have a bunch of different elements that need to be manipulated in and out. So, and you can do weird things too, like for example, right here, you're gonna you push the tab over, but because there's a hole there, you're on the bottom page, so you're sort of collapses yourself into the bottom page. So when you flip the page, you don't go you stay where you are.
There's some logical not confusion,
Yeah.
just trickery.
Yeah, that's one of the harder puzzles. A lot of people when we were play testing got stuck on that. So, and then this is sort of a culmination of everything you've learned. So we had 8 puzzles in this game that we built over the Jam Week. So here, and you have like a really cool little mansion diorama.
Yeah, we were able to do an art pass earlier actually when we were trying to develop this for our pitch, and so we were able to bid out some of the tech a little bit earlier with just how things fold, and making stuff look more 3D even though it's just like flat.
Yeah, and this is one of the puzzles which it has 3 pages that you can turn, and it requires like a lot of going back and forth to get all the blocks and tabs in the right position. So here you can see you ended up all the way on the farthest most page, which has this nice little archway, sort of like you're inside the castle, and then you go. It's like, so you can go a little out of your way to collect the inkwell, but then you use that empty hole to move over to this page.
Yeah, since it's a walkthrough, it's actually solving it pretty directly.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, it is not that easy.
yeah, people were taking
stuck on this
a
one.
while.
Yeah, so here it's like, and then, so you can get to the end goal, but you haven't set the tab in the right place to get the final inkwell. So now I think our player is going to go all the way back to change it. And I guess we could talk a little, just real briefly. So a lot of this tech is actually built from last year's Jam Week. So one of the things that we're doing this year is last year it was designed more for a touchscreen and using mouse.
Yeah.
And we were playing around what would be like if you played it with the controller. So a lot of the work on the engineering side was figuring out how controllers would work and changing the elements so that they worked with the controller. So for example, the tabs needed to be rethought. So rather than you touching the screen to pull the tab, we added in the little interaction point.
Yeah, I think another big feature for this game was originally it was built with an in-game editor, and so this year a lot of it was extending that editor, doing stuff like being able to color the tiles with set selection of palette of colors, being able to add new props, and just in general polishing some of the visual style.
Yeah. So that was Pop-Up Puzzler. So it was a really fun experience. Again, I wasn't on the first year, so it was interesting to come to a project and like the first day or two was sort of a lot of code archaeology.
Yeah.
Just figuring out like, oh, what's going on here last year? But Yeah, we're really happy with how the project ended up, and again, you can sort of see like even in like it's overall just 2 weeks of development. Well, 2 weeks plus a little bit of like free time here and there.
Yeah.
But you know.
You had double the time.
Yeah, exactly. We're cheating essentially. But,
No, it looks great. I mean, and like I think what you were saying is that second week really shows. I mean,
yeah.
it looks really polished. To be good.
Yeah, to that point, Jacob said that it's a great concept for a puzzler, plus it has great aesthetics. Yeah, like it looks really good.
Yeah.
The aesthetics I would say are deceptive too, because you said you made 8 levels. I would say you made 7, and then like something else, because that 8th level was really hard.
Yeah.
At least for me, I don't know, maybe,
No,
maybe not
yeah,
for
that
others,
eight-
but it's so charming and little and sweet. You're like, oh, this is cool. Go here, go here.
But
wait.
it hates you.
Go here, go here. And the last one was like, welcome to the edge of madness. Fold this book, minion.
Yeah, what happened, and what's interesting is sort of we had pre-built the 8th level is actually a level from last year's game that we adapted. So it's sort of actually
It's not your fault.
Yeah, that's he's like I didn't make it.
And then the other levels are us like, oh, how do we tutorialize up to this point?
Yeah.
Because I think one of the issues, yeah, because yeah,
Your world is about to get rocked.
Yeah, one
so.
of the issues last year was people, I think Zach and Chad had made so many levels, and you would just start playing, you're like, oh my goodness, this is like so much more complex, and I don't know what to do.
Yeah, I like the last year's one didn't have this component you guys have. That it's so charming of like the building and you're in the front yard, and then page 2 you're in the building or on the porch. Page 3 you're in the building further. So it's like you're getting the story of what the character is doing.
Yeah, yeah.
That's so charming to me.
yeah.
Yeah, I want to see this game on the Switch immediately.
We want to, but yeah, we've been. A lot of the work this year was the controls and the aesthetics, and so we're really happy. And
Yeah, it seems like it fits naturally with a controller. Like, I'm curious how that character moved around before on it, because this was like.
That was one of the biggest pain points from the previous last year. So you would touch the character and you would drag out an arrow, and then the character would walk on the path that you drew.
Oh, man.
So
When
it was a
you let
little,
go, right?
yeah. So it was a little tedious, but now you can just walk with like the analog stick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's all grid based, so it's pretty easy to move around and such. So
One of the things that stuck out to me is in that 8th level, again, the accordion background.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
Again, that's like an awesome aesthetic and level of polish you don't typically see in a Jam Week
mhm.
project.
Yep.
Totally.
2 weeks. You get a lot done in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Well, 2 weeks and plus a little extra.
It's an
'cause
Yeah, we had some extra time.
yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes
it
we-
looks like an indie game at this point. Like you.
Really.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. Oh, that's the other thing. Like because Jam Week's such a big thing. Like teams will pre-jam a little. So
Sometimes.
yeah, a lot.
A lot.
Yeah.
Cheat, yeah.
You know, get a little prep work
You gotta
done.
pick the fruit if you want to make the jam.
Yeah, that's
Get the
right.
structure.
Get that head start.
This is actually a good general tip for jams. Like you don't want to go in on your first day. It's like, oh, we haven't set up like a repository or anything. It's like, yeah, you want to get that boring work out of the way.
Yeah.
We did
Yeah.
nothing. No. So imported OVR and everything set up our repo day one.
Oh yeah, I
So,
mean,
wait.
new Unity build.
Yeah, new Unity project.
Project one, yeah.
So, of all the projects here, who pre-jams? A little bit, just, you know.
I mean, yeah, I guess I did.
Not at all. Henry didn't pre-jam.
No,
Right.
we literally set the
Right.
repo
True
running outside
jammers
downstairs.
You gotta move it up.
I mean, oh, there's Mike.
Hey.
Mike T on the ones and twos.
The
like,
giant
you know,
hand cheated.
Yeah.
Master hands.
Yeah, I think Henry read a scientific paper. That was his weekend before. That was like his
I
pre-jam.
bought some.
You know what? I'm not surprised.
I just had his lounge. Yeah. So you do it, Henry.
Cool.
You gotta do the research.
That's it. Unless we have any other questions.
No questions on here. Any other questions? Cool. Well, thank you, Pop-Up Puzzler guys.
Yep.
Speaks for itself.
Next up is Chris with Castle Siege.
Uh-oh.
So while Mike is getting that, there is another question. From something separate, Master K Dude asked, for Master K Dude, we know you're a big fan. I expect you to die, and we appreciate it. And you talked about what if we did a new level for I expect you to die on a boat, and maybe you have to fix the control panel. that's really, really close to deep dive. So I don't know.
That is even closer to one of the early pros. Like that's
Is it?
That's something we talked about specifically. Yeah.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
And
That's
so,
crazy.
and then he's like, you have to do certain tasks to, fix the control panel, and then once you fix it, you fix the rest of the boat. Is that kind of what you guys were thinking, or was that different?
Yeah. It was like yacht. I think was the pitch. It was
Okay.
really early when we had like 5 or 6 pitches, but yeah.
Yeah.
That is super close to something we're
Yeah.
working on.
You know, I think like spy movies and stuff of that ilk like make it seem like boat travel is almost as popular as car travel, if not
Yeah.
more so. It's like, how do these people find all these gassed up boats? Just every city's got canals.
Billionaires that you
Yeah, exactly.
That's
yeah.
right.
I guess
It's
that's
always,
what it is.
it's always the super villains that have
Yeah.
the votes, so it's never.
Exactly.
And their boats are
You
sweet.
don't have a
Like,
boat. I don't have a boat, not yet.
That's weird.
Yeah, I mean, I was fixing my boat the other day. I got a great idea for a level.
Oh, that's totally true, because Incredibles 2 had a boat. Yeah, what's up with that? Yeah.
See, I haven't seen The Incredibles 2 yet.
Yes, boy, that is-
Yeah.
There's a boat
Oh, shit.
in it.
Come
I
on.
didn't see it yet.
we'll fix it in post. No, this
boat's
is live. It's not going to
The whole internet's in outrage, right?
Yeah.
No, in like 15 seconds it'll be delayed.
Yeah, that's
That's
right.
viral marketing right there.
Cool. So, Castle Siege.
Yeah. So Castle Siege, as I kind of mentioned earlier, was it began as an exploration in destructible environments. So I really liked the way that Battlefield did their thing. It seemed that they basically, like, when you hit the wall, it basically just literal smoke and mirrors. It just swap meshes out behind the scenes and like big plume of particle effects. And I was like, okay, that doesn't seem so hard. So I went down that road and I was like, no, it's not that hard. And then I did a couple different versions of that. So I had like a totally physics, like everything was a rigid body, physics enabled, and surprisingly ran well, just not well enough for VR to be like comfortable. And then a couple different one of those like prototypes, and I kind of woke up on Tuesday going like, well, that's neat. What could I do for a game? And talking with some friends in between, we kind of came up with this idea of a trebuchet. And so then, because we're in VR, how about what is it like to operate a trebuchet in VR? So I got that working on Wednesday, and then I was like, well, how do you place the trebuchet? It was basically this organic kind of, I don't know, just had a lot of fun for a week. I've been itching to do this type of destructible environment and these types of things for the past couple of months or so. So this was just an exploration on a ton of different ideas. The video you're seeing here, this is interacting with the trebuchet. So the castle is destructible, but it kind of turned into the focus point being the table. So I don't know if it's been shown so far. It probably has already, but there's a table in the video that you'll see. So when you start the game, the idea is that you're like the commander of the army, and before the siege begins, you place all of your little chess piece sized objects onto the map in front of you in VR. And then that translates to where these real world quote unquote objects are placed in the scene. So you set up all your trebuchets, your weapons, your rams, your platoons of enemies, and then you basically hit this big button and it just goes poof, and then like that's the siege begins. And so they all start to attack the castle, and then you would then interact with the trebuchets and the ballistas and all that stuff. You can teleport to them and interact with them sandbox style. So the thing about the siege is that the siege was, the original plan was destructible environment with just a trebuchet. Then it evolved into the table and the RTS. So the part that's missing here is that there are nav mesh agents and there's things that will attack the castle, quote unquote, but nothing actually gets hit or hurt. You just see a lot of people swarm the enemies inside the castle. If the walls are destroyed, they'll like swarm in, and then technically the king is dead, but none of that logic actually got in there by Friday.
They like touch it.
Yeah, they're just like, hey, hey king, I got you. Give me the king. So I don't know if it's visible in here. This is a video of a later build because I took this and made and added a creature in. When I told my friends throughout the Jam Week about this, a lot of my friends are character artists and 3D artists, so he came back with the idea that you would actually have these huge, larger-than-life mystical creatures, and on them you could ride them, or there would be ballistas or weapons on them, and then they would be sieging the castle, and you would teleport to them. So those little creatures you're seeing, the white ones in there, that is a block out of that. I think the last thing to mention would be I've primarily developed with the Oculus SDK and explored a bunch of their things like spatialized audio and all of that. But part of the thing that I wanted to work on was working with Steam VR because it'll deploy to Vive and Oculus at the same time. So part of my Jam Week was also devoted to that. I have some GIFs. If I don't know if it's easier to pull up. Do you think you can pull them up, Mike? You might be able to get over there. But I could show you kind of the early progress, because this is where I was on Friday. But there's some wonderful little GIFs of nav mesh agents that were storming the castle, some of the earlier prototypes of the destructible walls, and that type of stuff that I was up to.
Stall for time.
Yeah.
That looks really awesome.
So, yeah, one of the things that, the first thing I noticed is like how you really get to play with the sense of scale. Because like you start off like on a table and you have this kind of god's eye view of the battlefield. But then like it looks like, from my perspective, like once you actually get down there, you realize just like how large your trebuchet is and how small you are as an individual and how inconsequential you are.
Yes.
Getting deep.
Right?
Philosophical.
Yeah.
Start asking questions
Not
about
even talking
life.
about the game.
No, I think it's really cool, like, to be able to see the battlefield from both perspectives. Like, some games kind of tried to do that, like Rome Total War, when that first came out, like, that was pretty amazing. You could, like, zoom into, like, the character level. But, like, those guys kind of, you know, the game is kind of old at this point. So it was limited at how good it looked. Like, when you inspected the characters up close, like, they weren't actually swinging their swords at each other and like they just kind of look like little, like, you know, army dudes, right?
There's a scale that you get from VR too, that like being in VR makes that effect more impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to mess with that. Yeah.
Or AR.
Or yeah. Yeah, but the scale is really cool, and I think what it ended up being is that, and it's what I really wanted to become. Bye, Ryan. Yeah, it's kind of an idea of like Age of Empires, but you play both sides and you yourself go down into the battlefield. And it would be like massive scale. I kept it small and everything's pretty close here because I didn't have teleporting to like objects on the table. But the idea would be you could just like point it at the ballista on the table or in the real world if it's close enough, and you would just teleport to that portion of the battlefield and everything's relative. So you can see all of these lovely GIFs. You can see the kind of evolution. Top left is my stress test. It was, I can't, like, so in the bottom left where the pieces are flying everywhere, I was like, this can't be running at 200 frames a second. I have like 200 objects and they're all rigid bodies and they're all activating. Like, yes, I'm deleting them and like a second later, but it can't be. So top left, I duplicated the trebuchet like 38 times, the wall about 20 times, left them all on rigid bodies. There was probably like 3,000 rigid bodies in the scene, and it ran at 30 frames per second. Which for VR is not good, but it's still 30 frames per second, which was my like key to like, I could just go this route with rigid bodies on everything.
That's like 1 frame per trebuchet.
Yeah, well, per trebuchet.
That's really good. I'm curious about the trebuchets. Are they actually physics operable, or was it like?
They're not really. It's all animated, so it's just an animation that is being scrubbed through by the amount you crank it. But that amount you crank does actually translate to how far the trebuchet will go. So if you crank it 20%, it'll go 20% of the full power. Yeah. Same thing for the ballista. As you pull it back, it's all animated. So like the arrow will actually come back, and then the launcher, and it's really like, I don't know, it's really real. It feels really cool. Yeah, and the top left was the first time I got the like table working, because I wasn't sure how I was going to translate like the table space to the terrain and have it actually feel like one-to-one, and also not have like you move the item on the table like a little bit and it goes miles in the real world. So managing that scale was part of the hard time. And then the bottom right is the nav mesh storming the castle. As I mentioned, they're just endlessly going to the king in the worst designed castle ever because there's a hole on the side. Yeah. Cool. I guess the only last thing would be, like those the OVR hands. So Steam VR, they have a pre-release version. Well, I think they have a release candidate now on our GitHub repo that includes these hands. So you get rigged hands for all of the VR controllers, the Knuckles, the Oculus Touch, the regular Vive, and it'll map all of that to the traditional, like, you don't have to do any code on your side. You just tell it, like, this is the hand I have, and whatever controller gets initiated when the game starts, it automatically maps all of your fingers and mappings to a rigged hand, which was just awesome and really made like picking up pieces feel like you were picking up pieces. That's cool.
That's a great way to get far fast in a week. Is good packages like that. Now,
yeah.
So.
that was my cheating. Was my pre-jam was getting a project with Steam VR installed, ready to go, and then I built everything else on top.
We're all cheaters.
Well, Master Katie said he'll take that as a game, so.
Okay.
That's cool.
Do you see the castle people being player controlled as well, or is that like AI? Like if this was to be.
I think that's mostly AI, because then you get into like non-teleporting movement in VR, which was a larger problem to solve.
Maybe,
and
but
we've
you got
had solved for it,
castle
but
layouts. You could put archers on the walls and stuff.
there is a version that is not this version, but there are there were bows and arrows. The regular, like if you've played Steam's demo stuff that they have, that same bow and arrow one that was laid out on the wall, and you yourself could be that guy. So there is archers, but I wouldn't say you're the platoons that are like sieging on the battlefield.
Oh,
but I
yeah,
think
yeah.
you would definitely, from a defense perspective, be just on the wall. You wouldn't be the commander at that point. You would just be on the wall, like teleporting and running as fast as you can, trying to defend the castle.
Dropping the oil.
Yeah,
on
just like
people.
like taking the bucket and do like that. There was another asset that was in here that was like the ram, but I didn't have time to do that. The idea was like everything was going to be really physical and you interact with it because it's VR. So it'd be like, oh, the final step would be you took the walls down, but there's the gate and the gate's fully metal. You can't actually get it through yet. So you have to like spawn a ram in there. It like wheels its way over there. You grab the side of the log and you have to like actually like ram it physically. But
Nah, man, to beat the gate, you need to jump inside the trebuchet and launch yourself.
that was
Nice.
requested every single time. 5 out of like maybe 8 people that I asked were like, "Can I launch myself in this? I should be able to launch myself."
Ultimate sim sickness test.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's a terrible idea. Never do that.
Especially when a trebuchet it's just like flings you like.
Oh,
gosh.
Oh, just thinking about it.
Doesn't get the gauge down if you brought the wizard in with
Oh,
the.
you need the experience
Midair.
of the spin, too, right?
Midair.
Midair. Ah!
Yeah, you have to cast float before you hit the ground.
Oh gosh.
So yeah,
That's
awesome.
yeah,
Very
it's not
cool.
as cohesive as like Spell Game or any of the games you'll probably see in a second, but
Well, but
That was the choice.
just you for a week, right?
no, that was just me.
Well, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
so that was
Very nice.
it was a lot of fun.
Very cool. All right, moving on. Enemy Mine 2.
Yes.
Enemy.
We'll search for more enemies.
Or mines.
More mines. More
More
enemies.
Yeah.
All right.
Speaking of that, we're
I wore the shirt.
Yeah!
Hey!
Yeah.
Place
So,
it.
So Enemy Mine 2, I took, so some years ago, maybe 4, or I don't know, years ago, we made Enemy Mine. It's a side-scrolling shoot-'em-up game where you, instead of having a ship, you jump from ship to ship as a disembodied entity, so you get to play as all the ships. But skipping over lots of what the original Enemy Mine was, what I did is I took the assets from Enemy Mine and the story from Enemy Mine and made it into a visual novel. The reason being, what people probably don't realize, at least a lot of people, Enemy Mine has a really deep, branching story. Thousands of lines of text, most of which no one has ever seen because the game happens to be incredibly hard. So, way back when we made it, I was the project director of that one, and I was sure that the game should be difficult and that people wouldn't care about the story, and I was kind of a jerk about it. And so, sort of as an apology to those who worked with me to tolerate me being a jerk about not putting continues in and making a super hard game that only super hard gamers could be able to see the story, and that was all bad. It was all my bad attitude. So to make it up to them in some small way, I spent my jam week putting together this. So now you can just you can choose to jump, choose to attack, choose to evade each enemy, and traverse the story in the exact same way that you could have in Enemy Mine, except there is no skill required to play this. You can just read and enjoy the story. You can go through multiple times to see the different branches and learn the deep world that actually exists underneath the super hard shmup that is Enemy Mine. Cool. That's basically it. Yeah, the little bit of cheating I did is Enemy Mine was actually made in Flash, and in order to extract some of the assets, I had to make an Air app, and I did that at home because I didn't feel like installing Flash developer. So that was a little late night weekend stuff. I made an Air app to extract pings from Swifts.
So you're saying this is very easy?
Oh, this is Unity, right?
This is Unity, yeah.
It's very easy.
This is beyond very easy. You can't lose this game.
I lost.
But
When I got to
You-
continue and I hit the wrong one.
you failed to get yes to continue. All right, it's not that easy. You can't accidentally hit
Trying
no.
to gauge how embarrassed I should be.
You saw yes, no, and hit no, even though you wanted to continue?
Yeah, I was going as fast as I could to try and get far, because I
Oh.
wanted to get more text. And when I died, I just sort of panicked and hit the first one I read, and I didn't realize I died. I thought that I had shot something.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Story speed run.
All right.
Get all the story in 2 seconds.
Sorry.
Yeah. Well, no, I had to at least stop playing, and I was like, I'm just playing again. So
I see.
I was burning through the dialogue to get back to where I was.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Right.
Yeah.
That's a good opportunity to mention that the original Enemy Mine 4 years ago was a Jam Week project
That is true.
that we then
Oh, yeah,
fully
sure.
developed.
I forgot about
So
that.
that we didn't mention that in the opening intro talking about Jam Week, but sometimes new ideas really resonate with members of the studio, and they kind of. I mean, I was there for Enemy Mine. It was so cool. Like you guys had a big crowd around your desks after you had worked on it the whole week, and Schell put it into full development.
It was exciting times. Yeah, Ryan Trail was also a Jam Week game. There were probably other ones.
I mean,
Expected to die.
I expected
Yeah, that started in
was
Jam Week.
prototyped in the Jam
And then
Week.
sort of Happy Adams was a prototype.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
In the Jam Week.
Yeah.
That's it. It was Jason and Jesse, right?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Water
so-
Bears keeps coming back, but nothing's come out of that.
Oh yeah, the beach party.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
that's
the party, yeah.
That'd be
It's
a
so-
bonus mode.
It's so good, too.
Yeah, I love the beach party.
But so some people use Jam Week for penance as well. apparently.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is actually up on itch.io.
Yep.
Oh, nice.
Follow Schell Games on Twitter and they'll send you the link,
Yep.
right?
And then there's going to be
Individually.
there'll be a blog post coming out about it too.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Right? Yeah.
It's totally gonna be a
I have to
blog
go.
post. No, I'm gonna do that. I'll do
You
that.
see the word dot come up on
Yeah.
the screen.
I'm gonna go type it right now. But yeah, you can read my heartfelt apology. You can play the whole game yourself. It's free. Hopefully it's fun. Yeah. I guess
It is
that's
awesome. We made a great space shooter, but we also have some fantastic writers and narrative people here at the studio. So
Yeah, the story's super good. I really was sad to release a game that, like, I don't know, maybe thousands of people played and maybe 30 people saw the whole story, if that, because it's that hard. So that did bum me out. So
Were all the assets from the original game? There's nothing fresh in this. That's
the
not.
only thing that I made was the particle effects.
Oh.
Everything
Behind
else
the
is.
ship.
Yeah,
I-
the
I
particle
s-
effects behind the ship are new Unity particle system.
I
Everything
saw
else is
things.
from.
That I was like, this is new for this.
Oh,
Yeah, I guess I just assumed it
because
was
you
new.
weren't in a panic the whole time.
Yeah.
Right, like it's.
It's unsurprising. I was also bad at Enemy Mine 1. So yeah.
That's super hard.
Can you get the secret ending?
You can. You absolutely can, and it's
Yeah,
not hard.
it's worth playing just
you can,
for that.
You can just choose to get the secret ending, and it's not in weird glyph text. It's in actual English. Yeah, so
Yeah.
Why?
That was very exciting.
Yeah, the original game has glyph text, so you can't really read
The
it.
So
first time.
the original game,
The original
you have to do something almost impossible to get the secret story, which shows in weird font, glyph font.
Just
Then,
so- just
so
so-
that, then you can then you have to do it a second time, and it will be translated to English.
Wow.
That
I
was so
doubt
fun.
anyone has ever read that stuff. So, yeah,
That's in Jesse's book, right? Hate the Player.
yeah. This game is older than the art of game design, so I didn't know.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know it was supposed to be an okay person.
the card.
the
I
lens,
didn't
of,
have the lens.
yeah, the lens of player spite.
The lens of don't be a jerk to everyone. I have not focused on that.
Another piece of random trivia is that he had to make some particle effects because all the particle effects in the original game are dynamically drawn in, so you can't really like export that.
Right. Yeah. So we had to make our own particle system in Flash that used. It actually did it would blit little squares. Little squares all over the place on updates. It was extremely complicated. Because
It wasn't that the
Flash
first,
is in a game engine.
The first jam. Someone showed that like my jam week was just the particles for Enemy Mine. Did you do that? I can't remember who it was, but I remember watching a presentation.
I mean,
I remember Dan telling me every
Dan
day.
coded up
about
lots of
his
particles for
particle
Enemy Mine.
effects.
Is it you, Dan?
What? I don't know. I just
I don't know.
like the
How would you know?
like the lightning effect is like a recursive function and it draws it.
Yeah, I remember
lightning works.
watching before I had seen the game in action. It was just your presentation of the effects from that.
Yeah.
This game is a legacy.
It's,
I don't remember.
it's
Wait,
funny
so-
because
so
Dan
Molehill
was the
doesn't
artist.
have-
And,
Molehill doesn't have
No,
particles?
Don't ask him.
Huh?
How would you?
Molehill doesn't have particles?
What's Molehill?
Molehill.
I don't know that existed then, at least it wasn't very far along. I don't know if it has particles.
Sounds like we need to
No.
tell another story about everyone, the behind the scenes version.
Oh, I was just gonna say,
4 years from now.
Dan was put on as an artist,
Sure.
but it also happens that Dan is
Hate
a
the
very
player,
good coder.
story of it.
And thus designed and
Story
coded the
and
particles
rules.
himself because
Well, I mean, you had the base, and I just.
I made a particle system, but like you actually did all the scripting to make the particles look good, which is why there's so many incredible, like there's tons of particle effects.
I
And
mean,
they're all handmade.
Dan sees the
Silly.
world in pixels.
Yeah, that's true. It's all true.
It is easier for me to
Jacob,
be, though.
Jacob says, this is an art coil.
No, it's not. Hello.
You don't wanna-
It's not our coil.
you wanna be
I'm not
pushing-
even allowed to talk about that. You're gonna get me fired.
Oh, that's good. Cool.
Yeah, cool. All right, I'll go back to my.
Hey, mine too.
My team,
You guys are
my
back
team
to
goes
dust.
back to hiding.
I'll go back to hiding.
Next up, one of the games that was just mentioned, Orion Trail. So this is well, I'll let Mike explain. Orion Traders.
Yeah, you want to take the video up now? Or?
Yeah, go ahead. So Orion Traders, so Dave and I both had a similar idea for a Jam Week project. And Dave really likes games like Forge of Empires and Boom Beach and Pocket Planes. And I wanted to make a game that was similar to Trade Wars, which is a game from 1986. You had to play on Telnet, which is like a web protocol before IP or something. It was like invented in like 1973.
Could you maybe prime for the stream what Orion Trail default is? 'Cause
Oh
this is
yeah,
built on
sorry.
top of
So
it.
Orion Trail was kind of like a space version of Oregon Trail, and the main allure of that game was like you're kind of going on your Oregon Trail journey, right, to Orion, but instead of like the random events happening in Oregon Trail, the events in Orion Trail, there was like a stat system with your ship, and you had a captain and some crew, and they had stats, and all of the events were like super funny and witty. And but you would have like a random result whenever you selected some options. And some of the feedback was that people who were more mechanically minded wanted more of a reasoner that for like their interactions to be meaningful in the game. And so I thought that something like this, where you have this galaxy map and you have a ship and you're trading goods between planets, was a good way to create like an outer loop whereby you can still have these like witty dialogue events that occur like whenever you want to like trade or something. So similar to Trade Wars, you have like ships in a starbase and you trade resources between planets. And we wanted, this is the trading system you can see now. Basically, here the result of your conversation will kind of remove a certain number of red shirts from your ship. And red shirts are kind of like HP in this game. So, because red shirts, they're expendable. But once you run out of red shirts, you can't really engage in dialogue anymore because the conversations cost red shirts. And you have to succeed in a conversation in order to engage in trading. So the red shirts is like it's a resource that's specific to a ship, and then your credits is global. And if your ship runs out of red shirts, it doesn't blow up or anything, but you have to take it back to your starbase and you have to fill it up. So the starbase kind of concept was it was like a secondary goal of mine, where I used to play a lot of this game called Travian. And Travian was like a predecessor to Clash of Clans. And that was a game where like you had a town and you would build buildings, and the buildings would give you resources. You can build an army and you attack other people. Well, I wanted to create in the starbase kind of like this like living community whereby you started with like almost nothing, and whenever you built a building, which was like kind of like a pizza slice, I think later in the video we'll see it again. But you get people, and the crew members, they have AI, and they walk around and they interact with different objects in the scene. And so like you know, there was something for everyone, right? Like there would be like some aesthetic goals and then also some mechanical goals. But if you build more barracks, the barracks will recruit red shirts over time. So time is the kind of like the real currency in the game, not like credits. Because like, you know, if you're good at trading, you can produce infinite credits. But if you run out of red shirts, then you just have to wait a while before you get more. I'm not really explaining this very well because it's super out of order, so sorry. So in this game, you perform a lot of trading, and then with the credits you can buy upgrades to your star base. And those upgrades include things like storage slots, or you can buy more ships, and then you can trade more. And and the galaxy is pretty large.
You control a fleet instead of a single ship like Virgil or Ryan.
Yeah. We wanted to kind of like, you know, make this game like a true Trade Wars where it was multiplayer, and you would have like your relationship with each planet would be remembered. And actually, I did spend a little bit of time the weekend before Jam Week started exploring like how to save the game, because that's actually a surprisingly hard problem to solve. Especially because I'm using the default Unity serialization tool, which has serialize and deserialize. That's it. It's the only functions you have.
And not just whatever you want either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have to do this like weird thing where like I paired each like game object with a data object. Because like at some point, like here we're about to go into a starbase, right? The starbase knows like what ships are docked, but when you're in a starbase scene, those ships don't physically exist in the scene. So they have to, I have to be able to like manipulate the data, which is just like some part of the text file that represents your save and stuff. So here we have the starbase, and looks like we built 3 buildings. I'm gonna build, I think, a ship here. Yeah. I don't know. I think in the future what we wanted to do was we wanted to expand in different kinds of ships you could build. Like a ship that would like consume a planet and turn into a starbase, and just kind of like make the game like a more of a 4X, you know, and just expand it and just go crazy with it. And then we also wanted the relationships between the planets to matter a lot more. You can see like when I click this thing and go to the trade screen, there's like the option for future stuff. Yeah. Sorry, that was like a long spiel. That was not
You could be
well
built out
focused.
pretty well with more ships and more planets.
Yeah.
Until you conquer the whole galaxy with a tree.
Yeah, when you say consume a planet, do you
Oh
mean,
yeah,
do you mean
there was
like
going to be this
you're the
thing where
board,
like,
or?
well, okay, so here's why, right? So right now you can only tell ships to go to a planet if you tell them to go somewhere in space, like the little line is red and you can't tell them to go there. So I figured the easiest way to make a ship turn into a starbase is if you told it to go to a planet and then you replace the planet.
Why does it orbit around you?
Well,
shoot
no,
a laser and explode.
because like code-wise that's too complicated. Like,
Yeah.
but
Consume
like,
planet.
yeah, and it would be more funny that way. Like if some planet's really mad at you, you're like, well, I'll just eat you. But also it'd be kind of strategic, right? Because like as you can see, like some of the planets are clustered, and if the most effective way to trade is to create like trade routes, and if you can have a starbase that's close to a cluster of planets, then you can be more effective about your buying and trading. Because if you notice, like every ship, the captain has 2 traits, like attack or tactics or diplomacy or science or whatever, right? And they'll get like better deals and better dialogue options if their traits match the traits of the planet they're trading with. But planets will want to buy stuff that they are interested in, but they'll sell stuff that they're not interested in. So chances are when you buy an item, it'll likely be something that is not a good trait for your captain if the captain has a good trait with the planet. So you want to be able to exchange items between your ship and other ships, and that actually works in this game. But that's why you would want to build like multiple star bases, so you could like kind of leverage the storage on your star base. We're also going to do we were thinking about like other rooms in Starbases, like adding a research center or a space telemarketing center to generate currency. Because I realized that
Get some of that clicker stuff in there.
yeah. Well, I realized that Jake from State Farm is a red shirt. Yeah, because he wears a red shirt. Yeah. So we were gonna have like Space Jake from State Farm.
Space Jake.
Cold calling people.
Yeah.
One thing that's kind of interesting is you have the 3D, I guess that's the Starbase when you zoom in.
Oh yeah. So all of these assets in the galaxy map are ripped from Orion Trail VR. So we could, and I'm using an orthographic camera here, so it looks 2D, but it's actually 3D.
Okay.
But then the art in the Starbase, that's like new, right? Josh, Brandon made that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you think that it would go more of a 3D route then for the map? Or-
I like the map better than the Starbase. I think like in the Starbase we want more of a voxely look. We just didn't have time in the week to flesh that out.
Mhm.
Yeah, the 3D voxels are pretty sharp.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
they're
this is
not
the
actual
PC
voxels.
build. On the Android build,
Yeah.
which yeah, we were also targeting multiple platforms. It's kind of hard to do in Gemini. But on the Android build, the camera controls work better. You can like zoom in and inspect the guys better. The guys actually, they have like this cool like AI job system, and they every task in each room is associated with like a specific animation, stuff like that. There's like a lot of subsystems that are going on here. I'm super surprised we got so much done. But saving the game was actually the hardest part about this.
Very cool. Any other questions, comments about Orion Traders?
In the title screen, all the text is dark except there's.
Yeah, so
it's not
this
stairs.
this Orion Trail logo was the original logo for the game, and then I added text to make it Orion Traders.
You added DERs.
Orion
Yeah,
Trail.
if you had, if
But
you
it
had,
says
like,
Orion Trail on there.
you need to have like a subterfuge system so you can release like Orion Traders Edition.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Nice. Yeah, backstabbing.
Once
Yeah.
it becomes multiplayer, that's
Oh yeah, you could join someone else's back.
Yeah.
Or they missed the pun, and it's Orion Traders Mutiny. Wait, but it was right there.
Yeah.
Oh, we didn't notice.
Good deal. All right, next up, we got Myrmidon,
Ants game.
Administrator.
This game's about ants. Yeah, let's call it Administrator, but that name is bad.
Administrator.
I don't know if we have the same definition of the word bad.
So
Yeah, that's right.
Myrmidons are like, it's a Greek city-state that the Greeks thought that literally colony ants turned into people. I think they didn't like them, but it's like a name of the family ants. Like Myrmex is the word for ants. So it was a little more interesting than Ant Administrator because people hear Administrator, they want to play it.
Fair.
Yeah, but it is an ant administration game. I was watching a lot of suckers. It's a clicker. I was watching a ton of Ants Canada, this YouTube channel, a bunch of like other nature documentaries about ants. I was super hyped on ants. And then like, I mean, honest reason I wanted to make this, they have a ton of stuff that can be systemized really well, like. They're very robotic, they collect resources and like they have classes and it's all super discrete. And it's also like they're simple. Like ants are kind of they're like janky in the real world. Like they look like they have bad animations, so like we can sort of get away with a lot more.
They look like a Gemini project.
Pretty much, yeah. they're really God's Jammy project.
God's Gemini project.
Yeah.
I only have a week.
Yeah.
Are you planning to add more interesting behaviors and they just follow each other? Okay, no, that's cool. Oh, it looks really cool.
Yeah, motor-wise that checks out.
Technically, it was a game.
Yeah,
Well, technically, the ultimate.
yeah.
The ultimate Gemini.
No, ours is only 5
That's
days.
true.
Yeah,
That's true.
Yeah.
So-
2 more days. We can start.
So the initial reason, like, I just wanted to have this came out of Frostbound. Like we were pitching stuff for Frostbound really early, like because we had to scale it down the schedule, and we were like, what do we want to do? Like, could we make it like you're just in a little fort in the Arctic? Frostbound's a Gear VR? No, Daydream.
Daydream.
Daydream VR game we released.
Right here.
Yeah, on that guy's shirt. But
That guy.
well, I mean, yeah, he's that guy. We one of the ideas I pitched, and like it didn't work at all for that, but I kind of kept it in my notebook, was like you have a fort, and then you have little Yeti people, and you just send them out into the wilderness, and they get like wood, and they come back, and you make a campfire. And that was like pretty boring for VR, just be sitting in a spot and like sending people away. But it seemed to like that is pretty much what like a queen does in an ant colony. And like we have an idea of her being royalty. Like the queen doesn't command actual ants; they're more like just sort of democratic. They just do a thing, and the more that do it, it reinforces it. But I was sort of pulled on that and doing a stomach game, like Osmosis Jones. Like you're like, hey, I'm Stomach Man, and you get food from the esophagus, and you have to like split it up into nutrients and send it places. And it was supposed to teach people about nutrients and calories.
Like cells at work.
Yeah.
Oh, does it exist? It's a game already?
Oh no, there's an anime.
Oh, okay, yeah.
No, sorry.
I was gonna make an anime. I was gonna make a video game adaptation of the anime. Yeah. But no, like I was leaning that direction, and then Henry, or the programmer, he's like a wizard. I want to get more of my programmer, because like I was like, no one programmer can do all this. But then he's just like, it's all right, I'll do it. Like, all right. And, but he read a paper that was like integrating crowd pathfinding solutions. So like when a theater sets on fire and everyone starts panicking, and they're trying to get out the door, there's an algorithm that they use to like determine if the door is going to be big enough for people to get out, and that determines like the capacity of a building, right? Like that's the maximum occupancy. That algorithm is like the basis for how the ants move, because it's just every person is just a cell, and they send out like tendrils to points that are shot on like a grid, and then they just pull themselves to the points. And because they own these points, that means everyone else can't go to that spot because they would have to own them, and they can't share it. So it's sort of like a really cheap way of faking collision. The ants don't collide in this, but they never go through each other because they can't exist in the same spot because of math.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so it's like you could get thousands of ants. Like you just keep spamming ants as long as you want, and you can get hundreds and hundreds, and the game runs fine.
It's true. When I
played
this for 30 minutes, and I had like 500 ants, and it all looked like they flowed naturally. So
That's cool.
That's really cool.
And like the navigation is a little. I'm trying to avoid saying buggy because someone's gonna make a joke. Yeah, it's a little twitchy, but it works out because of like the extrapolation. Like you expect ants to move like that, so it feels appropriate. Like you guys can see on the stream, I'm sure that they're like kind of freaking out. But they're nice and low. They're just under 300, so they can batch, so they can be rendered efficiently.
You're a two-man.
Yes. Yeah. Sorry, I'm so sorry. Yeah.
What are the 3D ants?
The 3D ants.
Oh, okay.
They don't have animations, but you can notice because they move too jiggly.
Well, you just said 300. I mean, so.
They're 296 first. Yeah. But it's like that let us kind of just dump them in, and then once we realized that we can sort of render a ton of ants, that became like we leaned more towards numbers and less towards, because originally I was like, yeah, like 50 ants, you gotta manage them and like make some soldiers, and they're precious, and like, oh, you throw them away, like they're disposable now. Like this, if it's a risky place, half the ants go there will die. So just keep making more ants all the time, otherwise you're gonna run out of your colony.
If you're only 50, you like name them and you'd like.
Yeah.
Hey, what's up?
No, Larry. Yeah, but at this point, like I've seen people play. Like I did some simple math, like really loose estimations. Like your ant gets one food. They eat one food a day, and eggs is, eat a food while they're growing up and babies. But because of just keeping it simple, like there are strategies that people developed that I didn't expect was pretty cool. And my plan is two kinds of ants you see them at the bottom. There's like a drone and a soldier. They're called minor and major in real ants. It's like the drones just collect food. Excuse me. And the majors, like the soldiers, protect the drones. So if you go to like a really dangerous spot and you have 10 drones and no soldiers, all of your drones will die. You'll just see at the top of the screen like ant died, and you don't get anything. But if you have soldiers, like the ratio of soldiers reduces the risk to the point that you can pretty much farm most things safely. So if you see like termites or like giant termites, you could just send them there with soldiers and they'll be fine. But it means like I planned for people to sort of balance like half soldiers and 2-to-1 ratio of drones to soldiers, and then it's also viable. I found watching people play is like you just don't ever build any soldiers, and you just don't care about your ants, and you just keep making them as fast as because the eggs are free.
Send in the drone.
Pretty much, yeah. And it's like, well, it's acceptable losses as long as you don't lose more than half. So like, they'll still bring food back most of the time. So it worked out.
Just the way nature intended.
Pretty much.
What's else to feed?
I mean, they're not reproducing individuals, right? They're not going to patch jack material, so there's no reason to keep them alive. Like only the queen, and she
Got
doesn't
all the
like.
data we need,
Yeah. Well, yeah, the screen that's up there now is like the jobs screen. I think, Mike's playthrough was way more successful than mine. I tried to record this earlier. I was like, yeah, I'm going to get a ton of ants, and I did 2 playthroughs, and I couldn't get over like 30. And I think, I want to say it was luck, and I just got a bunch of bad, random chance, like food sources, but yeah, he has a lot of ants running around. But you can assign them jobs, like they're either in the ant hill collecting food, and they're like moving eggs around and stuff, because you have to have them move an egg to a room because of a temperature gradient in the ant hive to make it so that they'll turn into like soldiers or drones. And then you have like another set of ants exploring, and they're the ones that find food sources, like they find a dead bird or like termites or aphids or something. And then the third cast of ants is the foragers, and they're the ones who just go out and get food from places that are already known. And there's a ton of diversity in real ants. Like this doesn't match at all what ants do, but it's kind of a loose aggregation of like the breakdown of labor in an ant colony. And I think, that's why it looks like you have so many ants. You have everyone assigned to the ant colony in yours, don't you? Because I see like 75% are assigned to the ant hill.
Yeah.
So that makes it look more impressive, like you have a big group.
But it's not cheating though.
Oh no, it's not cheating. No,
I just want everyone to know.
it just looks better.
Just to make it clear.
Yeah.
It's a house party.
And yes, you're very good at the ant game. But like when I played, like it's like this is super viable because they can't die in the anthill. They're safe. They're 100%. But you'll have food problems. But then if you send everyone out and they find like a risky food source, you can lose a ton of ants. So it's not really worth it sometimes. And you have to sort of balance like what food you're collecting and how risky and how far it is. So we have like faked distances because we didn't want to have to do a lot of content. We want to just anthill. So like stuff is far or close. And all it is like when the ant leaves the anthill, it just disappears and then just sits, waits outside for a delay, like checks his watch. And then once it's been long enough, they arrive with food or not. And then, and then to the player, it feels like, like that. But when you go look in the scene view, they're all sitting there in a circle around the anthill.
That's funny. To your point, Mr. Marble says you could add a feature like going above ground, but there's more predators, but better food, things like that.
Oh yeah, like build rooms above ground.
Wait,
Mhm.
so is the anthill like modeled out, or is it like 2D, or is it 3D? I know the ants are 3D.
Oh, sorry, you mean the scene itself?
Yeah.
It's like a 3D scene. It's just lit by a single light.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a single scene. I have 2 substances I grabbed from the substance share, and like the ant hills themselves, the little exits are just like floaty cards on top.
Oh,
Yeah, I planned and I sort of realized on Monday of Jam Week, I was like, the only art I need is 1 ant. And that's like all that's gonna matter if it looks okay or not. So I just spent like Monday and Tuesday just doing ant, and then like, all right, now I need a queen, just inflate the back. Like, I need a soldier, just inflate the front. I'm like, done. Yeah, but it holds up pretty well when you zoom in too. Yeah, I think there we have a couple features we're tracking. Like we might want to work on this in the free time, but like the going above ground was a big one we wanted.
Mhm.
And the minimum was like just to click a button and then jump up and like just see above. Like see the ground surface in the anthole, and you can see your ants coming out and leaving, because that's charming. Like that's what you want to see is sort of the control and the majesty that
It's
you
like a
have.
picture-in-picture security camera.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Yeah, that's right. The ant controller, like a queen in a computer desk.
Yeah, exactly.
Built the base.
It'd be cool
Yeah,
if you,
Yeah, I mentioned this earlier.
I was just gonna say, if you introduce like other ant like kingdoms or whatever you would call them.
Rival ants.
Competitors.
So yeah, because they have crazy like dynamics. Because there's other ant colonies that will conquer a colony,
Mhm.
but then not kill them and like sort of lord over them, and then they won't rebel because they're like, well, these guys defend us when we get attacked from other guys, so fine, we'll work for
We'll
you.
pay
kind of
tribute.
thing. So that's crazy. that
We're
that exists.
ant
And-
fiefdom.
Yeah, for real though.
Isn't that the plot of a bug fly?
Maybe.
Oh,
But
that's
that's
grasshoppers.
Yeah.
Yeah. that's-
But no, we like a lot of that stuff we try to, because we have events. We have 2 kinds of events. We find a food source, and that's like you can find carpenter ants, which are like the biggest ants in North America. They're not that impressive as far as ants go, but like
Still carpenter
yeah,
ants.
bush league ants. But no, they as far your wood ant, I think, it's just like the generic North American ant we picked, little wood ant. And like compared to you, they're like 4 or 5, 40 times like super big and yeah, right? So like they are the hardest thing you can gather food from. But if you choose to, you can like attack them, and then 99% of the ants you send will die, right? But like you can bring food back. And then we have like one-off events. So like you don't find a food source, but you get like a pop-up that says this thing happened. And ideally, we didn't do it for Jam Week, it was a stretch goal. But like you would get a one-time like, you know, this thing happened, you lose this or you gain this. So like there's an event for, I learned so much about ants this week. I thought I knew about ants, and I didn't. It's crazy. But yeah, it's like there's thief ants. They live inside ant hills in the walls. Like ants have ants. How crazy is that? Right? Like, they
That is
literally
crazy.
they live inside the tunnel walls and they steal food from them, and they're too
What?
small for the ants themselves to deal with. So like
What?
it goes down another.
They're like, we gotta do something about the ants.
Listen, ants,
Yeah.
we got their phone.
Because there's ants in here.
Yeah. But it's like those guys. There's we have a bunch of like events because like Joe Concha he sort of, because we don't want to do audio early, so he's like, what can I do? Like I want to write some stuff. You want to do writing? I was like, you just hear the spreadsheet, and he just wrote like a ton of events, like a huge list, and then they're all scriptable objects, so we just kind of like pop new ones in as fast as we can. And it was great to see, you know, the Jam Week Thursday when like you hit the button that the events go in, and then suddenly you have like 1,000 things that can happen, and they're all done already. Like it's just immediate. Yeah. But yeah, they're like I wanted also to have, because I played a ton of SimAnt when I was a kid. That was like, have you guys played SimAnt?
Yeah.
I think it's a right game. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's like old school.
It says Sim on the front. I'm just
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, SimAnt is like it inspired this heavily. It's close to this. You build your own anthill, and it's like super grid based. And you go above ground and collect food. I haven't played since I was like.
You gotta invade the humans' homes. their
Yeah,
kitchen and
and it's
everything.
really hard, right? Too, and you have to like
Yeah.
you get hit by a lawnmower. and
Yeah,
you
the
die.
lawnmower can like go right over
There was
your
there was
anthill.
like gotchas where like there was an anthill you can go in that was your home, and there was another one that has colors inverted. It's like it was inverted.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, I was gonna go home when you step in it, and it's like it was an antline. You died. Game over. And it's blue. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he said it was like a very early sort of inspiration for
Like
The
a
Sims
preschool.
because they model like the family's behavior a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, but the like
True ants.
having not invader ants, but yeah, sort of having like an invaders system where there'd be competing ants that show up and they go in your home, and then like we want to keep scale small, so instead of doing like you can build rooms dynamically, like well you have chambers and they can be expanded, so like you have your starting food store and you can like dig it deeper and deeper and deeper to hold more food, and then like you would see it change visually. Or you know, like you have a soldier room and you can upgrade that to get like super majors, which are a real thing ants have. Do you know that ants ride ants? It's crazy. There's a kind of ant that breeds ants that are big enough they ride on their heads and they ride around like horses. It's insane.
What?
Yeah, it's Asian marauder ants do that. But yeah, like
It's a magic card.
yeah. But you can upgrade that room and you can like unlock different majors, and like well you know one super major, like right now the majors can carry eggs around and defend you, but they can't carry food because in the real world they can't feed themselves. They have to be fed by the drone, so it's sort of a you know analogy for that. But like a super major would be able to only protect you, but really good. But he can't do anthill duty at all. It's like or she. It's not their job. And that's something else I try to do. Like everyone assumes ants are males because they're like armies, and that's kind of a human thing. But like
We have one queen.
yeah, it's like yeah.
She's still in.
I'm trying to avoid because ants are cool, but they should be portrayed like ants, and it's like they're all female. The males are like the yearly thing, and like they don't have royalty. That's a human thing we put on them because that's like the one that reproduces. But like the ones that determine what the group does are the ones that are walking around outside, not the ones in the fortress, and they're kind of more like slaves in a dark, like uncomfortable way. Yeah, but like it's trying to show like well not to human it up to keep it like
Keep it dark
keep it
because they're
BBC,
ants.
you know, like David Attenborough wouldn't pretend that she's in charge. He would be like, you know, she's a prisoner. Yeah, so we were trying to imitate that a little bit.
Why was he not the like narrator?
Yeah, I wish.
Next year.
Yeah.
Stretch goal.
Yeah, there's a couple of goofy events like I think Ant-Man shows up and he gives you stuff and like
Find dead humans as a food source.
oh it's really common too. Which is the joke is like they must live in a bad neighborhood, right? Because it's like, and today when I was recording, I guess I don't put the video in, but like I got 3 in a row in under 20 seconds.
Dead
dead
person.
human found, like okay, dead human found. Oof. Did human found?
Like, where is this
Yeah.
anthill?
I forget who I was talking to when I was recording this, but somebody suggested that it would be cool if you were telling some kind of meta story in the events that showed up. Like, so you could actually figure out, just like, wait, dead person found, like, I didn't expect that.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, what's this radiation levels all the food?
Yeah,
right, yeah,
Why
exactly.
is it up so high?
Why are we
getting
like,
so big?
Why can we speak?
It would be to uncover a world
Yeah.
this way.
That
You know,
actually is a great.
We
That'd be wild.
We had talked about like having it. I mean, this is like way beyond Jam Week because we struggle with these and all. But like to have a tree, like once this event happens, other things can happen, and then sort of stop there and just use the writing of that. But that happened. Like we wrote the events to sort of be loose, and that happened to people in the way that we were hoping for. Like I think when Greg was playing, he was like, "Oh, we found some." Oh, he got the fungus farm, which is like I think leafcutter ants do, where they bring leaves back, they grow fungus on them, and they eat the fungus. They do agriculture. They farm in their tunnel, right? It's crazy. But he got that, and he's like, "Oh, I got fungus. Cool. Like I'm eating fungus. This is great." And he's farming the fungus food supply, and then he gets cordyceps, which I don't know if you guys know. It's like they get infected, they go crazy, they run off a leaf, and their head. It's like the Last of Us thing. Their head explodes and horns grow out, and a bird eats them, right? And it's like a disease that makes them zombies. So he got that, and he's like, "Oh, I shouldn't have farmed the fungus," and he knew that it was from doing that. And he sort of had the little story that he created. Like, ideally, we would have those events triggered in a way that you could sort of tangentially make a narrative, but not have it be hard-coded.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, or if they get these three randomly, then spawn.
Yeah, it
this
unlocks
one,
the mega
It's
one.
like a combo.
I'm way more on the system side, I guess. For like, the advanced side were awful. They were like, "You have found pharaoh ants. They are in a hospital. They have food." And like they were too dry. So like I wanna build more and have new classes and resources and stuff. But I think for a lot of people playing like the narrative, like the human element, like the story of the ants and like we're a little like underdog and we got really massive and we expanded and yeah.
I wonder how like this would, like 4X games typically have that like final event, like the game starts smaller and you get bigger.
We have
and
that
bigger.
plan.
Yeah, so it'd be interesting to see like what that'd be like in an ant game.
So
right?
what I was telling people, and I think you beat it, and
Yeah.
I think Greg beat it.
You can beat it?
Well, loosely. It's a soft victory, right?
You overthrow the queen.
250 ants for 4 in-game days, and you don't drop below that. So 250 total for 4 days, which is hard because your food max is like 500. But the plan was to be like, well, if you want to turn one of your larvae into a queen, she takes up half of your workers and half of your food every day. And if the larva stays alive for 4 days like that, then she turns into a queen and she does a nuptial fight, flies away, and makes a new colony. And you have like a counter of, like this is your score, essentially how many of those you got. And then doing that, this is like way long term, but like having a queen fly away would be like FTL, like you get a new ship. Like now when you start a new game, like now you can choose, instead of generic wood ants, you unlock the leaf cutters, and then like you're a leaf cutter, you can only eat leaves now, and you have a new room that's like the fungi room, so you have to put leaves in there to grow it, and like you get perks per ant, so to be able to pick and choose. But yeah, ants are cool enough, I think. There's so many crazy facts. You just like, yeah, it's a new class ant, and you don't have to think of anything. Just go on Wikipedia and like find an ant species. It'll be bonkers.
Well, you do have to apologize to our generic wood ant viewers.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we just lost so many.
Yeah.
Oh man,
Cool.
very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. Let's see. Next up, I think is just Charles, right? Gunsmiths.
All right.
Yep.
Before you bring up the video, Mike, I'll
Yeah.
introduce it a little bit. So, Gunsmiths of Saturn was an idea I had a while back. I'm interested in like user-generated content systems where players can make some content of their own to express their creativity and kind of have something that they have personally to themselves. So this is an idea for a shooter where you're able to build your own guns out of small little blocks, and that each block would modify how the gun behaves, and you could build up more and more complex guns over time by collecting these little cubes. So for Jam Week, I was hoping to get a little bit of that gun crafting system in VR, be able to place blocks onto other blocks to like make a larger gun, and thought it would be cool as a stretch goal to try to get that crafting system working with a game on top of it, something kind of small for Jam Week. So I was inspired by a Jam Week project from 2 years back called Sharpshooter, which was a 1v1 gun duel for PSVR. And it had like two sides, so you couldn't like move over to your opponent's side, so it had a very sport-like feel, teleporting to stations to shoot at each other. So that's like, that is now sort of the base game where Gunsmiths is played on. We were hoping to actually like modify the Sharpshooter project, but it was so wrapped up in the PlayStation stuff that we weren't able to do that. So we made our own version very much inspired by it in Unity using Photon for the networking. So it's a 1v1 networked multiplayer competitive shooting game. And I played in a match against our very own Mike T. And now we're going to watch that match.
Should we have a commentary esports?
Yeah, shout
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I mean, I do want to just like talk over the match, focusing on the match. So I'm the blue player on the blue side. Got 10 bullets in the clip. I am shooting at Mike's little mask. If I can hit his mask, I score a point. If he hits me in my mask with little physics blocks, he scores a point. The scoreboard's on the back wall, which you'll occasionally see.
Are you like jumping around here?
Yeah, I'm teleporting from little station to station. So there's a cooldown on the teleport and a cooldown on the, or the reload time on the gun.
This kind of reminds me of American Gladiator.
Yes, the colors and the shapes, and even like the lobbing of the tennis balls.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because the bullets have physics.
Yes.
Oh, so
Yeah, they
did
have
you just
gravity
upgrade
on
your
them.
gun? Is that what
I
happened?
did. So it's 10 30-second rounds, and after each round, you can pick one of 3 gun cubes to add to your gun. So I added a little purple one to the tip. Each gun cube has a positive attribute that'll make your gun objectively better, and a negative attribute which in most cases makes your gun or your abilities worse. After each round, the gun cubes get more intense. So the first one I got, I think I chose something that makes my teleport cooldown a little shorter. Now I'm picking one that makes my reload speed faster. So in general, I'm trying to like drop my cooldowns so that I can engage with Mike more quickly.
When I was playing this, I thought the cube size was actually kind of a bad thing after a while, because like
Increased or decreased?
increased.
Yeah.
Because like I couldn't shoot around corners as much as I wanted to. But then again, the larger the cube, the easier it is to hit someone, right? So there's like a trade-off there.
There is. That's one of those attributes that I don't think is straight up positive or negative. It depends on kind of what you want to do.
And in our match, the
Yes.
bullet speed was actually an issue. Like our gun got so fast that the bullets were,
Tunneling?
yeah.
I think that is the case, yes.
The bullets are what?
Tunneling, like going right through the bullet.
Oh.
Yeah, yeah. Because it is a relatively...
So it's a railgun now.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's right.
Final upgrade.
But after that, I was able to pick like all the super good upgrades that like reduce your bullet speed very heavily as a bad thing, and then it felt like really strong.
Yeah, right. If you sort of over-tune your gun in one direction, then some negatives to bring it back to normal are actually positives at that point.
Yeah, I wonder. I kept doing the speed thing, like maxing out my speed, and I was like kicking ass in the beginning, and then by the end, I was like, I got stomped in the last like 2 turns, and I wonder if it's because of tunneling. Maybe I was just shooting through stuff.
And it also depends on what the other the player picked. Like my last upgrade there was an increase to points per hit, and we're relatively late in the game now, so it's a pretty extreme upgrade. So I'm getting 2 points per hit instead of 1, just about.
I didn't know you were doing that.
What? No, that makes a lot of sense because in that round, like we just thought that Mike just missed a lot.
I really
but-
did, yeah. Like round 8, I was like, whoa, Charles smoked me. Like that was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Now I know why.
But instead
Yeah.
he cheated, yeah.
You're cheating.
All right, so I
built the
played this
special
once,
house.
but I
Yep.
found that I think one of the optimal strategies is early on you get bullet speed because then you can sit in the way back of the base and
Yeah.
you can shoot at them. And like if they don't catch the bullet drop correctly, they can't hit you unless they come into the front
Right.
blocks, and the front blocks don't have as good cover, a lot of them. So
That is
So
definitely.
So you can outrange people intentionally.
Yeah.
What I love most about this game is that it's already in a state where we can debate and argue over
Yeah.
what's
Yeah,
the strategy,
seriously.
right? And,
Yeah.
and that is really what makes a sport a sport.
I like the idea of having the meta, like a MOBA style meta too, where you have like an early game, and you go for an initial build, and then they see where you're going, and they can counter that, and you can fake them out. Like that's really cool. You know?
Yeah, that definitely happened with Mike T and I in this match. We were both going for some speed and small bullets.
Right.
And over time we started to get further and further back in our zones because we could reach each other there. Our bullets got pretty tiny, so it became a
Yeah.
much more like precision sniper game towards the end.
Yeah.
Are they random drops?
Yes, so there's a bunch of attributes. I think for Jam Week we only had 8 attributes, but you can get any combination of a positive version and a negative version. And the only thing that's not random about them is that the intensity of how close they are to the max or minimum value increases the closer you are to the 10th round. And at the 10th round, all the positive attributes max out that attribute, and all the negative attributes completely bottom them out. So you have the most weird match.
You can only teleport once.
I mean, basically, you
Your
can get
cooldowns.
a 10-second
So,
10-second teleport cooldown.
I actually did wind up building my gun to have incredibly high ammo and at the cost of a really long teleport cooldown. So I was at a point in the last match where I really was just like, I'm just on a high platform, just like, and like I couldn't jump. I don't think it worked for me, but it was a strategy.
I would want a spec so that when I shot once, the bullet was the size of the arena and it just I can't move and I can't reload. That's my one shot. And it's just
glass
instant
cannon.
score.
Yeah.
This would be great with 2v2 because then you can like strategize, right? Like,
Good.
alright, you're gonna
Yeah.
tank,
High,
and just,
low, yeah.
I'm gonna be zipping around.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
then you
that
get
would
more
be
points
awesome.
if both people hit them at the same time.
That
Sync
would
it up.
be sweet. And especially if you had
Oh,
like
yeah, yeah.
double points and hitting. Oh,
Yeah,
dude,
man,
that'd be sick.
You wanna be my
Sport,
teammate?
man.
Well, let's do
Yeah,
it.
yeah, we're a team.
Yeah,
Yeah,
a gun, shoot your partner.
Yeah, and adding new attributes and behaviors
Whoa,
to the
Mike.
guns is relatively simple because they are so modular, and the block creation is just
Got
pulling
real.
from that pool. And we can make more complex things like spread shots or homing bullets and whatnot that
Oh,
would
yeah.
basically toggle on or off features.
I love the simple aesthetic. I think lends itself so well to just a great prototype. Like a week of just focusing on the mechanics, and obviously you guys go really far.
I sort of actually really like the block look.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It like fits well with the sports, like American, not only American Gladiators, but it feels very sports-like, I guess.
I wish you could.
Yeah.
Is it no clip?
No, I mean I have 9 bullets, but a really fast reload time.
When I played against Charles, I didn't run into an ammo boost the entire time.
Yeah,
Never
makes
saw
sense.
it.
Yeah, that's the way you coded it.
Yeah, that's experience, right?
How many
That's the end of the match.
rounds?
107 to
You
69.
got smoked.
I did. I got destroyed in the last round.
Yeah, I guess
And it was the last, like we had a really close match.
Well,
up
the last
until
2 rounds,
8th, 9th,
yeah.
or 10th. Yeah.
round 3.
All right, all right.
From
Last
the
two.
13.
I'm just saying.
Did you guys play like right before dinner with the devs or something? You guys are so hot. about it.
Yeah.
We did.
Yeah,
We
pretty
actually
much.
We
did.
did.
making sure.
We
Yeah.
did.
This just happened. I'm
Spicy.
still, I'm
It's
still a little
10
mad.
points.
We should have had a wait.
I didn't know
Like,
about the
your
double
points
points
were
until
still-
right
I know what
now.
Like a late game loaded.
No, yeah, he
Yes.
kind of just said it
And
really
that's in part
nonchalantly.
because
He's
of,
like, yeah, double
being able
points,
to
no
fire
big deal.
faster,
Power
bigger
down.
clips,
Well,
points
if this
per
was
Yeah,
just
yeah.
a full-on analysis of how bad Mike was. So another thing, here's another feature we got in. When you're losing by a certain amount, the game rubber bands your score a little bit.
Oh.
It's not true. You can bounce back because of really powerful upgrades. That is
The
true.
drops that happen, I assume both players see the same ones.
They do not.
They
Oh.
don't. See, that's, I don't even know, man. You could get screwed.
Then it can't be a competitive esport.
Yeah.
I got
Well,
it.
no, just increase the rounds. 50 rounds,
Okay.
and then you
Oh,
It
go.
all
Right.
evens out.
Randomness balance.
They're
out.
holding
Yeah, no, that's what it have to
One
be.
thought for
Just
the
have
future is
multiple
that you
rounds.
come with a collection of your own gun cubes that are then randomly distributed to
Sell
you.
the deck on that.
Yeah,
So
so
it's
it's basically
And sell the deck.
Yes.
Now
So
it's-
that it would be deck building.
Now it's pay to win.
That's crazy.
No.
Oh,
No,
and
because
then
they-
there's loot boxes that are literal boxes.
Boxes.
And
I'm okay with pay to win so long as
give
you're
you
paying
boxes.
us.
Yeah.
Not
I guess
wrong.
the thing that sticks out the most with me is like I thought it was funny that you built up like a gun sight. I wish there was more consequence to how if you built it longer, like how you put the pieces on.
Yeah.
Like if
yeah.
it gave you more health or more damage or something, or they had a multiplier on the effects.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
like, this is the faster bullets. Let me put
Yeah.
on this giant headdress that's
Yeah.
a target.
Because right now,
Wow.
what it
Right.
sounds like is I would want to build the gun to always look like my mask. so I can just pretend it's my head.
That's pretty cool.
But that's the only that I don't see like another strategy aside from
yeah.
faking it. Like I wish I was like, well, I could try to fake him, or I could trick over like max damage. Or something.
Right. Currently, it is totally aesthetic. It's to like build the cool shape that you want. But I could see a little mini game in there of almost like a match 3. If you create certain shapes, they could give multipliers.
They're touching.
Yeah, exactly. Put 2
Color
speed blocks
patterns.
together, and now they get a tiny.
Or they get
multiplier.
random colors if you're touching a double.
Imagine a line
Mhm.
here.
When I was playing against Charles, I put them all on the end to like make a rifle basically, because I thought that
More
I thought the
accuracy.
projectile came out of the last cube, so I could like put my gun
Get a little
around the
closer.
corner.
Oh yeah, you go
Which it
1, 2,
does
3,
not.
4, 5,
But
6.
Maybe.
It would be
It-
cool
it-
if it
it
did.
that would be
backfired,
cool.
though. It
What if you-
backfired
Elbow,
because-
elbow
the
cannon.
elbow
What if you
Double
could
right.
shoot
Trying to
out,
hide
shoot
it,
off
Charles
other
could always
people's
see me,
cubes?
'cause you're so big.
I think that would be a fun thing with shields, especially if
Yeah.
they would have destructible cubes on them,
Mhm.
and just imply more of the QB
All the
physics.
cubes.
Yeah.
I just see getting angry like, oh my god,
Yeah.
like beautiful
Yeah.
double
Yeah.
points
Yeah.
cubes.
Destroy someone's gun.
Oh yeah, no, not losing. I think just like disabled for the round.
Okay, all right, yeah.
New round
That's
comes
cool.
in, all blocks
Yeah.
are
Don't
stored.
take my cubes away.
No,
I
never.
need those cubes.
Never. That's like the anti in Magic, like losing a card at the end of a match. Oof.
Very cool.
Yeah, so that is Gunsmiths of Saturn, a little prototype, and that is just sort of one mode to play. The heart of the game really is the gun that changes over time from modular cubes that you snap on and collect.
Look forward to the guns. Look forward to the league next year.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
A
true.
lot of different cities.
So, maybe I missed it. Did you say what the next step, like what next feature would you like to tackle if you had the chance?
Hard to say. I like the 1v1 10 round match just because it's quick to play and test and it's easy to have fun in there.
Mhm.
So just adding more upgrades and gun blocks I think could be a thing. But also just those, I feel like playing the game generates a lot of ideas for next steps, and having more people play it and see where excitement is gathering the most to
Mhm.
see what people want to see next is really probably the next step. But beyond that, like what I would love to see is a loop with collecting those blocks and forming a little collection of your own, and maybe building and saving guns and having multiple guns in a little arsenal. So I've got like my Frosty Freeze cannon and my
Right.
Heel cannon and my sniper rifle and my grenade launcher.
One shot.
Yeah, and they're
And the
all
one
like
shot.
all the cubes are already on them, and I've like customized each one that I want and placed. And
Yeah.
when I bring it in, it's like my own personal thing that I made that I collected over time that I can share with friends.
Right.
And like it works exactly the way that I want.
Yeah.
And like I noodle in my craft shop gunsmithing, and
Mhm.
so that like gunsmithing feels like the core, and then there's the expression of my creations as like
In the arena.
part of that. Yeah, yeah.
But I do like in the arena that it's like that split second decision where you have to like, I gotta pick one of these 3, right? And that's sort of the challenge too.
It's true. It reminds me of like the arena mode in Hearthstone versus the like main Hearthstone play. Yeah.
Yes, you're drafting during VR FPS.
Yeah.
Oh, ding! That's pretty good. Wait, let me check a website. Like, no, you're
Nope,
playing.
nope. And you're needing to like respond
Yeah.
to what you just saw last round.
Yeah,
too.
exactly.
And so that might actually pressure you into builds that you don't normally gravitate towards.
One of the cool things that doesn't come as across in the video as much is how much movement there is in your game. You know, I think
Yeah.
VR has a pretty wide range of like, you're playing Beat Saber or something. It's actually work up a sweat versus like very low movement. But when people play this and when they played Sharpshooter before this,
Yeah, I was
you,
sweaty.
You see some awesome stuff of just like people gesticulating, trying to keep under that cover.
Yeah.
And it gets you an advantage. Like it's pretty cool to see.
The most athletic thing I've done in 4 years.
Yeah, there you go. That's a great way to sum it up.
And from Jam Week, we do have a couple of videos of people
Oh, sweet.
playing. So we'll do a Jam Week write up after Mike writes his. Then I'll write mine, and then
And then
right.
eventually we'll get down
And then we get eventually we'll
By next year.
Yeah, exactly.
by next jam week.
Sweet. I haven't seen those videos, so I'm excited. to see
They're
them.
awesome.
Cool.
Yeah, they have one of Chris Arnold, or VP of HR and General Counsel, just like on the ground, just like.
I can picture
Yeah,
And he was
I
just
can
waiting
picture
to play.
it.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, he wasn't even in the
on
game.
yet.
Yeah.
Just practicing.
Excited.
Yeah, him and Michael Sy going at it. That was a lot of fun just to watch. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. By the way, I appreciated the carpet.
Yes.
That's nice.
Fuzzy
Yeah.
carpets.
Yeah.
If you're gonna dev in VR,
Oh, yeah.
invest in a good curve.
And it encourages people to play in a different way too.
Yeah.
Like if you
Yeah,
see the
that's true.
space before and you see there's a big clearing, you're like, okay, once I'm in VR, I'll remember that clearing. The fact that it's like a forward-facing game too
Mhm.
means you're not worried as much about the cord and spinning around. A lot of those things like help encourage big movement. Also, just having cover that starts at your waist really encourages you to duck.
Yeah, that's true.
If you want to win, yeah.
Yeah, I mean you see it right there. in front
Encouraged
of
to
you.
duck. Bam, 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 bam.
Yeah, like trying to take some of those intuitive actions and then
Yeah.
reward them. Like if you duck, yes, you will not get a shot. You'll
Well-
only get a point against you if you see a block hit your
And
face.
inevitably, what you get is, well, if I duck, does that help? Like, I don't know. Why didn't you figure that out?
Yeah.
I bet half the players instinctively are just like, ah!
Yeah,
Somebody's
right.
shooting at me.
It'd be interesting if the cover blocks started to get like destroyed and like they're gonna get blown out. Maybe they respawn like after time, but if you're just sitting there camping, it's like you're
Yeah, and then you could
far
have
away.
gun cubes that modify structure damage, right? So
That
now,
would
like,
be sick.
all you do is blow up platforms to strand them on one
Oh,
platform, and then
Yeah, that's right. Like
Right.
round 8, 9, and 10, you're done.
Yeah, no platforms for
Oh,
you.
yeah,
I
that's
like
right.
the idea of the power-ups
running
that work all
around.
together too, right? Like you got the hot shot power-up where one of your bullets in each clip does extra points or pierces something,
Mhm.
so then you get a small clip,
Yeah.
and your hot shot, so it comes up more frequently.
Right, and every other bullet is
Yeah.
decreased in power.
Yeah, I
so
only
like
have one
that.
shot every time, and it's my random one shot. So
Yeah.
One thing that Sharpshooter did that I think would have made a really awesome block was, is that like the walls are more bouncy in
Mm.
Sharpshooter, and like I found that like there were some instances where if you got it just right, you could like bounce cubes off of a wall and hit someone behind cover.
Yeah.
Didn't know where they were. But if like there was like a bounciness cube,
We almost got bounciness in.
Shit.
It was just going to be like a modifier to the physics material, like relatively simple.
yeah.
Yeah, and
it's all relative.
How
all
long?
relatively simple.
How long until I'm able to build blocks on my opponent's mask?
Build blocks onto your
Just-
opponent's
just
mask.
every time I hit him, it just gets added.
Yeah, like
Oh, yeah.
and then it explodes
Digital
later.
paint.
No, he just can't see anything anymore. He's just
Oh,
Oh,
that's so
like,
funny.
and then he has to
Oh,
invest in
man.
like one of his power-ups has
He
to
has
be
to
a
take his own
watch.
bullets and just start shooting them off.
Although blocks that explode later would be cool. Like
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
I notice platforms that you tend to, if I notice your pattern, right? Like I
Sure.
throw a grenade onto one.
Yeah, and then
Right.
once you move
And
to
you
it, that's
move,
when
yeah.
it explodes.
Yeah.
But I like that as a status effect. Like it's blind, right? Which is in a bunch of games, but it's skill-based blind. You have to blind them yourself.
Sure.
yeah, and then you have to
Two
either
blocks.
shoot yourself, or they now block projectiles. So if you like plaster someone's face, like you can't hit them anymore until you knock your previous blocks off.
So no, they just have to bang their face against the cover to get them off. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we can deal with Oculus. They have to bang their face against the floor to get them off, right? And then they'll sell more
Somebody
headsets.
headsets.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's
That's all about. Yeah, that's all about.
First party Oculus time.
Oh, that's funny.
Oculus would like that. They'll make tons of sales.
Yeah, that's right, that's right. So yeah, we have people buying 3 headsets at a time. I don't know. I don't know what's going on, but we like it. Cool. See, no further questions about gunsmiths. Well, Ryan, he did a board game, and I sent you just a quick picture, Mike, through your chat. I don't know if you can bring it up or not, but
Your chat?
what's up?
Oh, I should check it in GChat.
Yeah, in G-chat. But if Mike is able to pull it up, can you talk a little bit about
Yeah,
it?
yeah, I'd be happy to. But yeah, so I decided what I wanted to do. I mentioned earlier, sometimes it's nice to work by yourself, and that's what I did. So yeah, we have a lot of board game fans here at the office. I play a lot of board games, and much like we just did with Gunsmiths of Saturn, I love like thinking about additional rules, my own rules, other designs for stuff. So one of my favorite games is Lords of Waterdeep. It's a D&D themed worker placement board game, and in worker placement board games, generally you're assigning your little agents each round to different things. So I'm like, okay, well, where do you like send people out to do different things? Like maybe like the gym. I'm sure that's how it happened. Yeah, I was just like thinking. That's how good ideas happen. You just sit and think.
In Lords of Waterdeep, the first time I ever played that game was with you, and now when I run it with other groups, I still do the thing where I was like,
have to yell at you.
you have to say intrigue in it, intrigue in
Yeah,
it.
it's totally crucial. It's not in the rules, but it's a home rule.
I thought it was.
But yeah, so I was thinking like, all right, so I like the idea of worker placement. A lot of times what's cool about worker placement is you place your guys and you're just getting gains, like all game, like you're kind of optimizing your income, sort of. So like, okay, well that's an everybody wins kind of scenario, and that's who can be the best at that. So by staging it at the gym, I also had this idea, and this is where I really was like, okay, I'm going to do this for Gem Week, of having not just spots on workout equipment, but then you can get a spotter. And you can't go to that position until someone's already on the workout equipment. You can't just go to the barbell and be like, I'll spot the next person. I mean,
You
I'm
can't,
not
but
gonna go work out over there.
yeah, exactly. You're just gonna get kicked out, right? So once someone's working the dumbbell press, for example, then yeah, like you go, hey, you need a spot, and this is a gym. You don't turn down a spot. Like there's a certain culture to the gym, so you have to get the spot. And the idea would be like the friendly spot.
I've never heard that.
No, it's just you just want to be everybody's cool.
I've never been offered an unnecessary spot.
Exactly. What do you mean unnecessary? No, you can spot for everything in this game, including like.
well, I mean, like you're not gonna like do squats for like 70 pounds. Hey, you need a
Hey,
spot?
man, I'm good.
In the world of muscle tussle, you do. And if that spot happens, you're a nice person. You're trying to move up in the world. You'll accept the spot. So, basically, the person. What really tickled me about it was the idea that the spotter, who's just trying to help, could actually screw you up, right? So in the game, when you are on a piece of workout equipment, you have to roll a d6. And depending on how much muscle you build up in that group, you just have to reach higher than what your muscle level is at. So everyone starts with a 1 and everything, so you have to do better than a 1. Then you get gains. Now you have to do better than a 2, maybe a 3 or 4. Like however big your muscles get, you need to keep exceeding that, which becomes more and more difficult. If you have a spotter, you roll 2d6. Which sufficiently increases your chance of acing that. But the limit of human exertion is 10. So if you hit that 11 or 12, you actually lose what you were attempting instead of gain it. So that friendly spot could turn into a little bit too much encouragement, and there's a horrible gym accident. So.
Like, come on, Duel, you can do 400 pounds. Let's get it, man.
Yeah, lift the whole machine.
So wait, they lose how much? What they were going for?
They lose what they were attempting. Yeah.
So they become extremely skinny very fast.
Well, they got injured.
They lose muscle mass. I mean, even at
not
one
injured,
muscle
they
mass,
recover.
keep in mind these are studs.
Really,
that
it's
are
pride,
going-
though.
Well, you lose that's the fifth muscle group that I did. But basically, yeah, you work your chest, back, arms, and legs are the 4 different groups, and the different machines work different combinations of those, right? So one of them is actually like the most perilous one is burpees, which works all 4, but you can't get a spot on burpees. Like it's all risk, high reward. And then you could also do things like, I'm going to spend a turn resting, and that gives me a reroll to use later in the game. Or I'm going to spend a turn at the communal peanut butter jar, which if I use the protein next time I'm on a machine, I get double gains. So there's like little power-ups and little strategy. And of course, after several rounds, you're vying with your 2 bodybuilders that you control to have the best bodybuilders, which is mostly building muscle mass, but there's also different superlatives that are different for each game. So one of them is Swole Patrol, for example, where you have the smallest point differential between your 2 bodybuilders. They're the most similar. So if you have one guy that's real strong, one that's not, you could actually lose points because you got the Goliath and Dave bonus, where one guy is an Adonis and the other guy has very low muscle mass. So yeah, that changes the game. You can actually have different machines per gym when you lay it out, and different superlatives of basically bonuses and negatives that you're going for each round. So it's very dynamic.
Why the 2 weightlifters? Like, why not 3? Why not 1?
Yeah, that's a good question. So 2 felt good because I wanted to be able to spot yourself. Like oftentimes a good strategy is I'm in control. My guy's going here. He's using the peanut butter. I want to make sure he gets his spot. Everything's like I'm controlling the situation.
Bad games.
3, yeah, exactly.
Right,
3
that's fine.
might work, and I haven't actually played enough to know if if 3 is comfortable, that probably just makes things a little longer. One thing that Will Edge Waterdeep does that's awesome is it brings in another agent mid to late through the game. So it's actually the perfect pacing tool because you're not burdened by it early, but then when the options are so many, so late, you get that extra agent and it kind of accelerates you into the late game. So
Cool.
that's another option.
You can bring in like the weak guy, because it always happens if you have a group of 3, and it's like, oh, we're way up here, we gotta like, lower ourselves
You get one
to
new
get
guy,
this
like,
guy up, you know?
yeah. There's been, so we talk about suggestions a lot with Jam Week, and there's been so many good ones for my game too. Like, can you have just a person on their cell phone sitting on a machine and you can't use that? Like, yeah, I guess. And like 3 different people, like isolated, told me about that. I'm like, okay, I guess that's a thing. And then there's January mode, where there's a ton of people all over the gym, and you gotta
And
work
no
around
machines,
them.
yeah.
No machines available. Everyone can just do treadmill.
You can get some.
Never squat.
Yeah, no
There's always a
squats.
guy on there for 5 hours.
That's right. Yeah, another superlative is like forgot leg day.
Yep, yeah. Whoever has the lowest leg mass out of all players.
You
So
just
there's things to
can't
watch
change
out for.
machine, right?
What's that?
You just can't change the machine, you just can't walk at all.
Yeah. I'm stuck with
Just
this.
you can ask the convention next door.
Yeah. I don't think that that's an accident. Also, the idea osmosis. We have Sheridan right next door to our offices, and they have bodybuilding conventions. Seems like twice a year. Maybe
Twice a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, this one is new, so we think because there might be another one in the fall.
It's
So
it's like a North American Championship. Or
Yeah.
something.
Group of 3.
Expanding.
yeah,
Yeah,
Sheridan's getting known.
Pittsburgh
muscle
bodybuilding.
capital of the world.
Yeah.
Okay, it's very close to here. It's not here.
Texas
Yeah.
and Brazil is right next door. That has to be why.
All the meat.
All the
I mean, from Steel City, Roboburg, Musselburg?
Musselburg.
I don't know.
Musselburg.
Tri-City?
Try
There's
There's something there. Oh man. Yeah, I had a lot of fun writing all the bonus cards and stuff. I can't remember any of them.
If you guys didn't get a chance to play it, like if you do play testing like later or on, or if you're still developing, highly recommend it. It's a lot of fun.
Can I print it out and play it at home?
Yeah, the rules are not 100% finished. So, but I actually, and in terms of skill building, to be serious for a moment, that was one of the things I wanted to prove to myself. Was like, okay, no matter how silly or complex of a game I can make, I want to be able to write rules that make sense, that could let it be played by itself. And did I finish that? Not quite, but I started, and of course it was a bigger beast than I thought. But yeah, it's getting to that point.
When you feel good about the rules, my oldest loves tabletop games, and we're always trying new games out. So she'd be very into it, and like,
That's awesome.
if the 2 of us can figure it out, you've nailed it. We struggle with it.
That's good to know. I will take up that offer. But
Cool.
part of the fun is also naming your weightlifters, and that's some incredible names.
Awesome.
Who were you guys?
Yeah,
Well,
so-
2 people were Hans.
Yeah, we had
2 different Hanses.
Yeah, 2 different Hanses, and then I forget
No
what my
Franzes?
second one.
No Fonzes, no. There was Boo Radley.
Boo Radley, yeah. And then Shulk,
Shulk, the
Incredible Shulk, because that was
Um,
Lauren's maiden name.
Yeah, which is great. And then there was like Ophelia and Willow, which didn't sound like classic bodybuilders, but
But
you know what?
Ophelia was a beast.
Ophelia was a beast. Yeah, she was a beast.
That's awesome.
So yeah, that. And I should say another idea of that came in the beginning was the idea that your little muscle people dynamically grow throughout the game, like the actual markers, like in some way track your muscle mass. So I did buy some little like magnetic dudes and some Sculpey to like add
nice.
muscles, like just
they
as a
can grow.
placeholder, really.
Yeah.
As Jesse mentioned, this great game called Quicksand, which is another board game where your little pith helmet British explorer guy is actually made up of like 6 layers, and as you sink into the quicksand, you break off pieces. So the illusion is that they get shorter and shorter as you play the game, and it kind of helps sell that game, right? Like the perfect little knick-knack. So I just did some experimenting with that. Nothing's ready for
Yeah,
practice.
you need like scrawny arm and normal arm and
Yeah, click,
You know,
click,
steroid
you
arm.
Just
Yeah.
snap them in and out.
Now you need an armature that's inflatable and you have it's all little
Oh,
puffy.
there you go, yeah.
Inflate it
Yeah.
once.
Well, like the little guys when you push the bottom and they collapse with the structures. It was a ton of fun. Another thing I tried to challenge myself on was playtesting.
Mhm.
Dwayne helped me out with that. That's just a good takeaway for any sort of development. Is like get your thing in front of people quickly. You'll find out what's the best part of it, what's the worst part of it, and where the rest of your work lies. Yeah. thanks for showing. I forgot you took that picture.
Mhm. Yeah. Cool. So, any final thoughts with our Jam Week projects? Any ones that you think that we didn't show that we should show in the future? That we're allowed to show?
I can't remember the name, but the bubble one, bubble spinning.
Oh, is it just called Mad
Mad
Bubbles?
Bubbles?
It looked really
But there's
cool.
two A's. It's like bubble spinner, but it's a
Because it was
top-down-
a Cassini and
Ryan
Travis?
Woolley.
Oh, yeah.
Joystick match 3.
But
Oh, yeah, it doesn't have a name. It randomly generates its name every time you play it.
Does it
why-
really?
That's why we're all struggling.
Oh, are you serious?
Yeah.
No way!
Untitled bubble
Alright,
game.
mine was titled Mad Bubble Game, so I'm gonna stick with that.
Okay, let's go with
It's
Mad
a good
Bubble.
one.
Yeah.
But it's like almost ready. Like
Yeah.
graphics are.
Very polished.
Are they? Yeah, because he was telling me about it and he was super excited. He was like, oh, I want to play, but I didn't get a chance to make it
Yeah.
over there.
Yeah, if people,
Co-op too is pretty cool.
if
What's
people
up?
know like
Oh wow.
like I guess
Oh, that's
Snood.
cool.
What are the games that are like that? Snood, where you or Bubble Bobble. You,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
You shoot gems, and when you get the match of at least 3, they disappear. Imagine that in a like space shooter arena.
Yeah, it's
where you can.
there's an axis, and when
free
you
more-
shoot it, the inertia of your hit spins the object it's on.
Mhm.
So you have to like alternate which side you hit it to spin back and forth.
What?
And the core has a color, right?
Yeah.
So you have to, yeah, and they'll be
Once
shielded
you
in
do a
different
blockchain on that reaches the core, then the whole thing is.
There's
Yeah.
also friendly fire, so you're
Plus we're-
flying
plus we're-
around
It's
the
very
place,
hip. It's a
shooting
block-
these
it's a
things,
new
but
blockchain
not-
game.
Literal.
Bubble blockchain.
Yeah, bubble
Million
blockchain.
unit ship.
Mm.
It sounds like not even
Sounds
a
more like
joke.
a blockchain.
Yeah.
than a real
Like
thing.
people are coming up with like
Yeah.
blockchain games for like
Yeah.
no reason.
I like the Harley's game. You talking about that?
Oh,
Yeah, what is it called?
Credible Fear.
Credible Fear.
That was really good too.
Yeah. That was. Can we talk about that? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
It's related to it's Odyssey's framework, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like a text messaging simulator, I guess. That's like the frame of the game is that you're texting on a phone, and then it's your immigration. No, I played the game that teaches me this. I should remember the term. You're
Yeah, you're
Aren't
an
you, like, a
immigration
rep?
judge, aren't you?
no, you're an agent.
You're
ICE or-
an
I can't remember.
I don't know if you're I don't think you're ICE, but you're basic.
No. Your job is to determine if the person that's seeking asylum. You're an asylum agent.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if they're seeking asylum, if they
Of
don't
under
have
control,
a
yeah.
credible fear of return, like if they're saying like I can't go back, and you say why, like I don't want to, then it's like credible fear, then they don't stay, and your job is to like stamp them yes or no, sort of like papers please, but you're getting text messages to show a interview, and it's like a lot of the dialogue is based off of real interviews,
Mhm.
so like it's unclear how much of it is real and how much of it is like our side.
At least all the cases they're based off of, I believe, actual or similar cases, and they show you. It's interesting because they give you a lot of context, and that you make your decision, and then at the end they tell you what the actual results.
Yeah, but without judgment, they don't tell you you're an idiot.
Yeah.
But it's like, does this person deserve to go back? And you're like, yes. And they're like, in the actual case, the judge decided, God, no, and you picked wrong, and like, you
Oh,
felt
wow.
guilty. Yeah. It's
Well,
pretty
then
cool.
it's like that's what you picked and that's what they picked, but you might not still be convinced that you
But,
were
yeah,
wrong.
but it still feels,
Yeah.
it's like, well, it's the rules, I guess.
Yeah, I can't believe they judged
And you
me.
hit it, and it's dirty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, like that really happened?
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's you right in the mix. It's really well done.
It's also like
Cool.
while playing it, my reaction is like, this is super dry. It's like legal stuff, and then like I started doing it, and I just like burned through the whole thing, like every conversation, 'cause
Mhm.
it's compelling enough. Like there are people talking to you, and you're just texting someone on a phone, and it's like supernatural. It's
It
good.
has
That's cool.
Yeah, that's the nice stuff too, like the ...
Super.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
very natural.
Very
It's not supernatural. It's very natural.
It's like supernatural.
This one guy's from Crypto.
Yeah, this the
Yeah, that's right.
the ghost.
Should he
Should
go
You're
back?
going back. I
Did
can't.
you guys see the visual novel that Tim Turney and some other people worked on?
Murder She Dunk.
Yeah.
Oh,
Murder She Dunk.
Yeah.
I thought you were
Weirdest
getting
start
it.
I've
That's
ever
the
seen.
one
Is
we
it on
couldn't
Wolf
talk
still?
about because
That's the one that we probably can't show.
We can't show it because we borrow. It's a lot of borrowed assets.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, we can.
The artwork is
we can
amazing.
talk about it.
The artwork is amazing.
Are you saying they haven't been creatively transformed? Because I think they have. They have robot legs on them.
the actual issue is that we have to clear a bunch of new
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
Yeah, yes, that's the
Not
main
the
thing.
Chris Arnold rap, which we could play over footage of him playing Saturn.
No, it's not original B though.
Darn it.
Yeah.
I thought he could beatbox for himself.
It's hard. How do you describe that though? It's about Angela Lansbury.
It's a visual novel where
Sometimes.
you're playing. No, it's imagine Murder She Wrote, because it's the same structure
Right.
as a Murder She Wrote FTV episode, and you play Angela Lansbury.
As
and
Angela Lansbury.
and actually that's true. You're playing as Angela Lansbury, not her character.
Right.
What's her character's name? It's like
Jessica Fletcher.
Jessica Fletcher from Murder She Wrote.
I'm very
But-
old.
But what happens is she's caught in a horrible accident where she loses her legs, but it's okay because they're replaced with cybernetic robotic enhancements.
Yeah.
And then robot legs, basically. And then she has to solve a murder mystery based around a game of pickup basketball. And as part of this, she has to challenge other people to
Dunking.
insult basketball games.
Yeah, it's a smack talk contest.
Yeah, a smack talk contest.
Dunking.
And
Right.
you gotta dunk on them.
Yeah.
And that's how you get more information to learn more about the murder to solve the murder.
It's amazing.
It's hilarious.
Yeah.
And
Cast
you-
of thousands.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny, and it's like, and then all the people that you're interrogating are like celebrities, so you get to dunk on Jackie Chan.
Yep.
Right.
And
Oh,
it's-
But
Yeah.
as another character.
Yeah,
and with-
they're-
yeah, it's so
Yeah.
it's like sort of Cobblecraft's art,
Oh,
where
yeah.
it's like they take a celebrity and then they'll change clothing and like settings and colors to make it like a weird, unique character.
Right, yeah. Outside of Angela Lansbury being Angela Lansbury, they're all fictional characters, but portrayed by like
Right.
icons.
Yeah.
So
It's,
you-
it's,
yeah.
it's very strange.
It's like that
Brilliant.
Shafu RPG. Was there?
Oh,
Yeah.
Charles Barkley, shut
Shut
up
up
and
and-
yeah, and guided.
Yeah, Gaiden. Yeah, that's what it reminds me the most
So
of.
good.
It was amazing. That was a big team too. A lot of
Yeah.
flies to
Oh
that.
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
surprised they
Like-
finished because they
A lot
had
of
so
fun.
many people.
They packed that full of. It's a fairly long game too. So
Yeah.
it's like 20 to 30 minutes, depending on how fast
Yeah.
you read.
It's got awesome VHS tape effects.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
so
Make it look
good.
lo-fi.
Yeah, it's real good.
You get to dunk on Shaq and Sigourney Weaver, and
Larry Bird.
Larry Bird.
Yeah, Grace Jones is in there.
Yeah, yeah,
Grace Jones?
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing.
Good stuff.
No Dick Van Dyke.
I don't think so.
Diagnosis
No.
Murder.
Yeah, oddly enough.
Well,
I feel like Dr. Quinn Medicine would make it work in there.
Oh man,
Ooh.
that's
Not
another.
a team. I wasn't
Part
on the
two.
team.
Part two.
Part
It
two.
was so
Yeah.
seductive. But
Yeah. Next year.
Made my board game.
MacGyver's got to be in there, right?
I don't think he is.
Really?
No,
Yeah, I don't think he is, but that does make perfect sense.
that's a crossover episode.
It's a mix of things that make sense with Murder She Wrote, NBA celebrities, and Reagan stuff. Like,
Yeah.
Ripley,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Ripley from Aliens was just Reagan.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh, sure. Just because Reagan's on the team.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no
Well, she
other-
did all
there's
that.
no other
She did all the art.
explanation.
I mean, yeah.
There's also Scully's in there too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, that's
So those are the three worlds that came together to some horrible secret smash footage.
All right. Well, that's our GM Week edition of Dinner with the Devs. So make sure, thank you for watching with us. Make sure you subscribe. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook, Schell Games. It's there at the bottom of the screen. Next month, we are... What is our Dinner with the Devs theme? I don't remember. We're trying to get one of our internal teams to talk about our original IP once some final decisions are made with that. So hopefully that is soon. And then, yeah, I think we're going to try to bring in a partner to talk about some games that we've done with them. And yeah, we'll let you know on our social channels. So thank you for watching. Take care.